Chapter 1709. Yang County City had hundreds of thousands of people before the dimensional storms. Now, there were less than 50,000 people living in the county city. This was because there weren't many dimensional zones near Yang County City, and there were very few breakout creatures. There were a few dimensional zones in Yang County City, but they weren't famous. He hadn't heard of any major commotion. Before Zhou came, he had read some information about Yang County City. He guessed that if Kunlun Mountain was nearby, the most likely place was Xianqing Mountain. Legend had it that Xianqing Mountain was a place where Shang Tang prayed for rain. The locals also called it St. King Square. It got its name because the surrounding cliffs resembled a city, and the depression in the middle resembled a basin. Xianqing Mountain was a typical karst geologic landform. There were limestone funnels of all sizes on the mountain. The locals had a saying that there were 72 dragon nests, 124 ghost millstones, and 360 small metal pots. It was said that the large karst cave could accommodate more than 10,000 people. However, ever since the dimensional storms, Xianqing Mountain had become even more complicated. There was a high chance that people would get lost inside. Furthermore, no one had seen any dimensional creatures inside. There were too many dimensional zones that didn't produce dimensional creatures and had no idea of their origins. Typically, very few people would take the initiative to explore them. The reason why Zhou suspected that this was the Kunlun Mountain that Lu Yun had mentioned was because in the information he had found on the internet, someone had said that this was the ancient legendary Kunlun Mountain. However, this saying was only circulated in a small circle. Not many people knew about it. Zhou had only found it after searching the internet. He had no idea that there was such a saying in the past. Junior brother, look at your glowing face. You've been doing well recently. Just as Zhou was sizing up Yang County City, Lu Yun appeared out of nowhere and came over with a grin. You don't seem to be doing well. Zhou looked at Lu Yun and realized that he hadn't advanced to the Calamity Realm. There's nothing I can do about it. The old fellow doesn't let me go to the dimension. I can only rely on myself. I wonder when I can advance to the Calamity Realm. In my opinion, it's a waste not to take the dimensional resources. It's great to get benefits without doing any work, Lu Yun grumbled. Zhou knew that the old fellow Lu Yun was referring to his Jing Daoxian. It was said that Lu Yun was Jing Daoxian's grandson, but Zhou wasn't sure if it was true. What's the situation now? Although Zhou was very curious about what Jing Daoxian had been doing recently, he knew that it was useless even if he asked, so he decided not to ask. You didn't bring that chick over? Lu Yun sized up Zhou for a while before suddenly saying, Why did you bring it here? Zhou frowned. Since Lu Yun had taken the initiative to mention the chick, it was obvious that he had some plans. Didn't I tell you? There is a phoenix in Kunlun Mountain. That little bird in your house should be a phoenix, right? If we bring it over, we might be able to acknowledge its kin. We can take the sword without fighting, said Lu Yun. When did you tell me there was a phoenix in Kunlun Mountain? Zhou glared at him and continued. Besides, phoenixes aren't necessarily relatives. How can there be such a good thing? Zhou wouldn't bring the chick to a place like Kunlun Mountain to take the risk. It was more like waiting for the chick to advance to the heavenly realm. I'm just saying, let's go take a look at the situation first. If you're confident, we'll do something big. If you're not, we'll retreat and come up with a long-term plan, Lu Yun said as he turned around and headed in the direction of Xianqing Mountain. Don't tell me the Kunlun Mountain you mentioned is Xicheng Mountain? Zhou asked as he walked. That's right. The path inside isn't easy to traverse. Only I, the #1 godly thief in the world, can bring people around freely. If it were anyone else, even an immortal in the heavens might not be able to come out. Lu Yun was smug as though it was true. It's been so long, but your abilities haven't improved. Your bragging skills are getting better and better, Zhou teased. I'm really not bragging this time. What kind of place is the mythical Kunlun Mountain? It's the home of 10,000 immortals. To put it bluntly, ordinary immortals are just ordinary mountain dwellers in Kunlun Mountain. As the two chatted, they quickly arrived in front of Xicheng Mountain. The terrain of Xicheng Mountain was not very steep. The mountain peaks formed a circle like a sleeping tiger. It really looked like a mountain city. Shicheng Mountain has 4 doors. Now, there are the 4 entrances to the dimensional zone. However, if you really enter from these 4 doors, you will never be able to see what the real Shicheng Mountain looks like. Lu Yun led Zhou one in another direction and didn't head for the nearest mountain gate. Why? Zhou asked in puzzlement. 4 in the open and 5 in the dark. Shicheng Mountain actually has a total of 9 doors. Didn't the classic of mountains and seas say that the void of Kunlun is 400 kilometers wide and 10,000 feet high? On it are trees 5 fathoms long and 5 wide. On the face are 9 wells with jade as railings. On the face are 9 doors, and the door is guarded by an enlightened beast. If Shicheng Mountain is really Kunlun Mountain, there will naturally be 9 doors, Lu Yun answered. What do you mean if? Zhou frowned slightly. It's just a guess. Although it's definitely not far from the truth, there's always a possibility. I'm a cautious person, so I can't be certain, Lu Yun said. Just as Zhou was about to say something, Lu Yun stopped by a pool against the mountain wall. He pointed at the pool and said, "We're here. This is one of the 9 doors of Kunlun Mountain. Only by entering from here can we see what the real Kunlun Mountain looks like. There's no rush. Let's take a look first. Didn't you say that there are a total of 9 doors? Then bring me to all 9 doors." Zhou sized up the pool and didn't see the tiny palm symbol nearby. Zhou didn't really care if he could enter Kunlun Mountain, but he had to find the tiny palm symbol. Apart from the 4 doors, I only know of this one. The other doors are hidden in the dark. I won't be able to find them in a short time. Besides, what's so good about those doors? Can we just enter? Lu Yun seemed a little anxious when he saw Zhou turn around and leave. What's the rush? Zhou turned around and sized up Lu Yun. Am I in a rush? Lu Yun chuckled. Yes. Zhou nodded seriously. He felt that something was amiss with Lu Yun. He was definitely hiding something from him. Sigh. I'm just anxious to get the sword as soon as possible. Look at how impressive Human Emperor is. If I have that sword, my future achievements will definitely not be inferior to Human Emperors. I might even be able to obtain the title of Thief Emperor. Hey, don't go. Seeing Zhou turn around and leave, Lu Yun hurriedly chased after him. As Zhou and Lu Yun wandered around Shicheng Mountain, a cyan-clothed woman walked in the direction of Shicheng Mountain. She was clearly dressed in ordinary clothes and didn't look eye-catching, but when he looked carefully, he couldn't tell what she looked like. It was even difficult to describe her figure. Chapter 17:10. Kunlun. The woman stood in front of the northern gate of Shicheng Mountain and stared at the strange mountain as though she was thinking about something. Immortal supremacy. Are you really going to the mountain personally? The white-robed Wang Mingyuan stood not far behind the woman and said respectfully. Can't I enter Kunlun? The woman said indifferently. Although the world is huge, there's naturally nowhere you can't go. However, Earth hasn't been completely broken, so it's somewhat inconvenient. Why do you have to enter the mountain personally? It's good to find a subordinate to enter the mountain with me to investigate the situation, Wang Mingyuan said. You don't have to put it in such a roundabout way. Even I will be restricted on Earth, the woman said indifferently. But so what? Ignoring the restrictions, even if I don't have any strength to use, there's nothing on Earth that can harm me at all. Immortal supremacy, you're right. Wang Mingyuan didn't say anything else. Why do we have to enter from the north gate? The woman asked as she looked at the mountain gate. Kunlun 9 gates. There are only 4 gates in the light, the east, west, south, and north gates. The other 5 gates are hidden in the dark. I only know 3 of the 5 hidden gates. Entering Kunlun Mountain from those 3 gates, the scenery and things you see are completely different. When you enter Kunlun from the 4 bright gate, although you enter from a different location, it's just a different location. The things you see are the same. Wang Mingyuan paused for a moment before continuing. The swords I see can only be seen by entering the 4 bright gate. Since the things you see at the 4 bright gate are the same, why don't we enter from the other 3 gates? Why must we enter from the north gate? The woman asked again. There are mountain god temples outside the other 3 gates. It's difficult to hide our whereabouts if we enter from there. The mountain already knows about it, so it's not convenient for us to do anything, Wang Mingyuan said. Then let's enter from the north gate. The woman glanced at Wang Mingyuan and nodded slightly. I'll lead the way, Wang Mingyuan said as he walked toward the mountain gate. The woman followed behind Wang Mingyuan unhurriedly and entered the mountain gate one after the other. Junior brother, stop wandering around. Let's quickly enter the mountain. Lu Yun followed beside Zhou Wan and kept persuading him to enter the mountain quickly. There's no rush. Let's walk around first. Zhou Wan was now certain that Lu Yun was hiding something from him. Furthermore, it was something very important. Otherwise, with Lu Yun's personality, he wouldn't be so anxious. Even if he was anxious, he wouldn't show it on his face. I'll tell you the truth. I'm not the only one who knows that there's that sword in Kunlun Mountain. I'm really afraid that someone else will beat me to it. Stop wandering around. Let's quickly enter. When Lu Yun saw Zhou Wen's expression, he knew that if he didn't say anything, it would probably be impossible to pull him into the mountain. Zhou Wen looked at Lu Yun without a word. Lu Yun said anxiously, "Don't look at me like that. I swear that everything I said was the truth. If there's a single lie, I'll be useless for the rest of my life." You actually dared to make such a vicious oath. From the looks of it, you aren't lying to me this time, Zhou Wen said with a nod. Then let's leave quickly. Time waits for no one. We have to get the sword out before the others, said Lu Yun anxiously. I said that I believe you, but I didn't say that we're entering the mountain now. Let's walk around first. As Zhou Wen spoke, he continued walking forward, ignoring if Lu Yun was following him. Junior brother, don't throw a tantrum at a time like this. If the sword is taken by someone else first, don't you think we'll be wronged? When the time comes, there'll be no medicine for regret, Lu Yun said gloomily. Then tell me, who will get first? Zhou Wen had no intention of turning back as he continued walking forward. Lu Yun was stumped. You didn't discover the sword in Kunlun Mountain, Zhou Wen suddenly said. How did you know? Lu Yun was slightly taken aback. You're good at stealing, but there's nothing you can steal from such a place. Without knowing what's inside, you definitely wouldn't run in for fun, right? Zhou Wen said, all right, I admit it. I really didn't discover it. Lu Yun knew that he definitely couldn't lie to Zhou Wan, so he didn't deny it. Jing Daoxian discovered it. Zhou Wan asked again. The only person who could find such a strange place was probably that strange old man. You really guessed wrong this time. This place really wasn't found by the old fellow first. Lu Yun's answer exceeded Zhou Wen's expectations. Who is it? Zhou Wen asked curiously. I can't tell you, but you have to promise me that you will immediately follow me into the mountain after you know the answer, Lu Yun said. Then it's better I don't know. Zhou Wen continued walking forward. Lu Yun was truly anxious as he said helplessly. It was discovered by our traitorous teacher. He was also the one who made a deal with the old fellow. He got me to bring you to retrieve the sword, but he told me not to tell you yet. The human world? Zhou Wen was taken aback before he realized what Lu Yun meant. Why didn't he tell me himself? Zhou Wen frowned. But I don't know. He only told the old fellow that the immortals are very interested in that sword. We have to take it away before the immortals do. If we're late, I'm afraid it'll be too late. It's best you quickly follow me into the mountain, Lu Yun said. That won't work. Zhou Wen had no intention of turning back. What won't work? What I just said is true. If I'm lying to you, I'll make you pluck my head off and use it as a toilet bowl. Lu Yun was really a little anxious. What I mean is that it won't work. Zhou Wen thought for a moment and continued. Teacher discovered this place first, right? That's right. Lu Yun nodded. Since he discovered it first, even if it wasn't convenient for him to retrieve the sword, he could have informed me earlier. Why did he wait until the immortals were almost here before getting you to take me to retrieve the sword? Zhou Wen pondered. Perhaps his environment in the dimension isn't too good, so he didn't have the chance to spread the news, Lu Yun said. If it's really that urgent, why did he take such a big detour and get you to take me there instead of directly telling me the news? Zhou Wen turned around and looked at Lu Yun. After your old man received the news, he should have spent quite a bit of time understanding the situation inside, right? You know that too? Lu Yun looked at Zhou Wen in surprise. With that old man's personality, how can he trust others so easily? Furthermore, He had to risk his grandson's life. If he didn't figure out the situation inside, how could he let you take me in? Zhou Wen said. Now that you mention it, it does seem to be the case, Lu Yun said gloomily. Don't tell me you mean that teacher is trying to scam us. I don't think he would scam us. Perhaps he's just using us as two pawns, Zhou Wen said somewhat absent-mindedly. His gaze and attention were attracted by the scenery in front of him. Chapter 17:11. After circling Shicheng Mountain for so long, Zhou Wen finally saw the tiny palm symbol. However, there was no door that led up the mountain where the tiny palm symbol was. There was a bare stone wall with a fist-sized depression on it. As the nearby mountain walls weren't flat, the depression looked inconspicuous. Junior brother, are you really not planning on entering the mountain? I think that although teacher is a little strange, he won't go so far as to scam us. Furthermore, the old fellow has already gone in to take a look. You know how sharp his eyes are. If he says there's no problem, I don't think it's a big problem, Lu Yun mumbled. Zhou Wen ignored him and took out his phone. With Lu Yun's back, he took a picture of the tiny palm symbol on the mountain wall. The phone immediately displayed a notification that the dungeon was being downloaded. What's there to take a picture of this crappy mountain? Say something. Do you want to enter the mountain or not? Lu Yun was extremely depressed. Look, isn't this mountain wall a little different? Zhou Wen said as he looked at the mountain wall. If not for the tiny palm symbol, Zhou Wen wouldn't have discovered anything amiss here. However, with the tiny palm symbol engraved here, it didn't make sense that there wasn't anything special near the mountain wall. Therefore, after repeated observation, Zhou Wen realized that there was something special about the mountain wall. What's different? Lu Yun was taken aback when he heard that. He couldn't help but carefully size up the mountain wall. The protrusions and depressions on this mountain wall are a little strange, Zhou Wen said as he looked. What's strange about it? Why don't I see anything different? The terrain here is like this. It's all natural. There are no signs of artificial excavation. Lu Yun was somewhat puzzled. He couldn't see any problems. If I'm not wrong, the protrusions and depressions here are arranged according to some mysterious array formation. It looks like there's no pattern, but it's actually a lot of knowledge. Ever since Zhou Wen watched the battle between Truth Listener and Purple Star-Lord, he had a deeper understanding of the great heavenly cycle stellar array. He did know a little about it. Although he didn't know what the protrusions and depressions were called, a portion of them were very similar to the great heavenly cycle stellar array. It wasn't difficult for him to draw parallels. You know array formations? Lu Yun looked at Zhou Wen in surprise. I know a little. Let me take a look. If I'm not wrong, there should be another mystery here, Zhou Wen said as he extended his hand to press on one of the protrusions. In the end, nothing happened. He didn't press down on the protruding stone, and there were no changes in the surroundings. Haha, junior brother, there's no need to blush. It's normal for humans to make mistakes. If you don't learn well next time, don't show off. It wasn't easy for him to find a chance to mock Zhou Wen, so he was very happy. Zhou Wen ignored him and pressed down on the other protrusions and depressions in a certain manner. Junior brother, array formations originate from the Book of Changes. It's a specialized knowledge. It's not something that can be learned just by understanding it. If you really want to learn, I'll recommend you to the Zhang family. Their family is good at this. Lu Yun was speaking happily when the smile on his face suddenly froze. After Zhou Wen finished his final slap, he heard a crack as a hole suddenly cracked open in the mountain wall. The hole wasn't big. It was only slightly bigger than a dog hole. People could probably only crawl inside. Ordinary people couldn't stand up. Holy *T, there really is one. Could this be one of the 9 gates of Kunlun? However, this door is too small. It's very difficult for people to enter and exit. Can the creatures in Kunlun Mountain crawl out? Lu Yun widened his eyes. I wonder if I can reach the place you mentioned if I enter from here, Zhou Wen said as he sized up the hole. I'm afraid no one knows about this mountain gate. If we enter from here, we might encounter something. Let's not waste time. If you want to enter, use the door I mentioned. Lu Yun didn't want to take the risk. Kunlun Mountain wasn't a place he could take risks casually. Zhou Wen didn't plan on entering from here either. Just like Lu Yun, he wasn't willing to risk his life. After all, he had already downloaded the dungeon on his phone. He could slowly explore it in-game in the future. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly heard a strange sound coming from the hole. It was as though something was rubbing against a rock. "What's that sound?" Joan sized up the hole. It didn't look like there was anything blocking him, but he could only see a meter or two in. He couldn't see anything beyond that. All he could see was pitch-black darkness. The darkness wasn't an obstacle to Zhou Wen's vision. He could see clearly no matter how dark it was. It wasn't as simple as it being dark. It sounded like someone is using sandpaper to grind a rock. Luyan listened for a while before continuing. "That sound seems to be getting closer and closer to the hole. Don't tell me something is coming out. What could it be? A breakout creature?" Zhou Wen was somewhat curious as he retreated for a period of time, his eyes still staring intently at the hole. Luyan retreated even further than Zhou Wen. If something really came out of Kunlun Mountain, it would definitely be an extremely terrifying creature. The stronger the dimensional zone was, the harder it was for the dimensional creatures inside to break out. Just the thought of a creature that could break out of Kunlun Mountain left him terrified. The rubbing sounds coming from the hole became louder and louder. Zhou Wen thought for a long time, but couldn't figure out what the sound was. He had never seen any animal make such a sound when crawling out. No matter how he listened, it sounded like someone was grinding rocks. Not long after, the sound of grinding became even more intense. This time, it didn't sound like someone was grinding rocks. It sounded more like someone was cutting rocks. The thin and sharp sound made one's eardrums feel extremely uncomfortable. From the sounds of it, it's probably a big guy coming out. Let's not cause trouble and quickly close the door. Luyan retreated a distance. If any wind blew, he would probably be the first to flee. Since we're about to come out, it won't be too late to leave after seeing what it is, Zhou Wen said as he retreated. The two of them hid behind a boulder in the distance and secretly looked in the direction of the cave entrance. Now, he was really curious about what would crawl out. "Junior brother, do you think a chainsaw will crawl out from inside?" Luyan looked nervous, but he didn't stop talking. Just as Zhou Wen was about to say something, he saw a blurry shadow appear in the cave. He couldn't see what it was. The thing in the cave seemed to walk out of the thick fog. At first, he could only see a vague outline, but as he got closer and closer to the cave entrance, its appearance gradually became clearer. "What's this?" Finally, Zhou Wen and Luyan saw what the thing crawling out of the cave looked like, but they still couldn't recognize it. Chapter 17:12. What's that? Luyan looked at the thing that came out of the cave with a look of surprise. "How would I know what that is?" Zhou Wen couldn't tell what it was either. The thing that came out of the cave didn't look like a living creature. From the part that was exposed outside the cave, it looked a little like a metal container. As only a portion of it was exposed, it was impossible to see its full appearance. It looked like a square metal container with many strange and mysterious patterns engraved on it. It looked extremely ancient. The metal container was still squeezing out. As its body was slightly bigger than the cave, every movement produced an ear-piercing sound from the friction between the metal walls and the mountain walls. It was the sound Zhou Wen and company had previously heard. Clang! Just as Zhou Wen and Luyan were watching from afar, the metal container fell out of the cave and landed on the ground. Indeed, it was a metal container that was about the height of a person. It was wide at the top and narrow at the bottom. It was squarish, but it was impossible to tell what it was. The two of them exchanged looks. None of them dared to go out. They hid in the distance and watched for a while. The thing didn't move at all, as though it was really a dead object. Furthermore, after the metal container fell out, nothing else came out of the cave. Luyan wanted to know what it was, but he didn't dare take a look himself. He egged Zhou Wen on from the side. "Junior brother, you are very capable and knowledgeable. Why don't you go and see what it is?" "Senior brother, of course." Zhou Wen wasn't willing to take the risk. He didn't move at all, as though he was rooted to the ground. The two of them looked at each other. Neither of them dared to go over. Time ticked by. The two of them waited for more than half an hour, but there was no movement from the metal container. Luyan's curiosity was greater than Zhou Wen's. In the end, he couldn't help but summon a companion beast that looked like a cat and a ferret. He controlled it to carefully approach the metal container. The two of them stared at the companion beast and the metal container. Even when the companion beast crawled to the side of the metal container, there was still no movement. "Climb in and see what's inside." Zhou Wen observed for a while. The metal artifact was hollow in the middle. It was a square basin, but he couldn't see what was inside. He used several viewing spells, but all he saw was chaos. He couldn't see what was inside at all. Lu Yun naturally wouldn't take the risk with his main companion beast. The companion beast he summoned was only an ordinary epic companion beast. Even if it died, he wouldn't feel the pinch. He immediately stopped bickering with Zhou Wen and ordered the companion beast to jump up. Seeing that the companion beast was standing on the metal without any problems, Lu Yun ordered it to crawl back in. Just as the companion beast entered, the metal artifact immediately reacted. The metal artifact trembled as though it had been electrocuted. There was a strange light surging inside. Just a moment. Before the two could see anything, the metal of the metal container of the metal was the metal. Is he dead? Zhou Wen couldn't see the situation inside the metal artifact, so he could only ask Lu Yun. Lu Yun wore a strange expression as he didn't answer Zhou Wen's question. His eyes stared intently at the metal artifact. Soon, Lu Yun's companion beast crawled out of the metal artifact. However, the companion beast that crawled out was clearly bigger. Its originally pale yellow fur was now resplendent with golden light, making it look like a golden-furred beast. With a glance, Zhou Wen's eyes widened. With his present abilities, even if he didn't know what species the companion beast was, he could roughly tell its level. The companion beast that Lu Yun summoned was clearly at the epic stage, but after crawling out, it had become at the mythical stage. Both of them immediately realized that the metal tool seemed to be an incredible treasure. "Is your companion beast evolvable?" Zhou Wen asked Lu Yun. If it was an evolvable companion beast, it wouldn't be difficult for it to advance from the epic to the mythical stage because it had obtained the help of a treasure with immense energy. However, if a non-evolved companion beast advanced to the mythical stage in a metal artifact, that would be rather impressive. Yes, it's an evolvable companion beast. From the looks of it, there's quite a lot of energy inside it. It actually advanced to the mythical stage so quickly, Lu Yun said. As Lu Yun spoke, he suddenly teleported to the side of the metal artifact and reached out to grab it. Almost at the same time, Zhou Wen appeared on the other side of the metal artifact and grabbed it with one hand. He knew Lu Yun too well. From Lu Yun's words, he knew that he was definitely lying. The companion beast he had summoned was most likely an epic that couldn't evolve. Now, Lu Yun's actions prove this point. Zhou Wen grabbed the edge of the metal artifact and tried to snatch it away. To be able to advance ordinary companion beasts to the mythical stage, this thing was practically a divine artifact. Ordinary companion beasts could advance to the mythical stage after staying inside for a moment. Just the thought of what changes would happen to a truly high-level companion beast inside was exciting. Lu Yun was only at the Terra grade, so his strength was far inferior to Zhou Wen's. Although the two of them had grabbed the edge of the metal artifact, Zhou Wen's strength was great as he forcefully pulled the metal artifact towards him. Just as Zhou Wen thought he was about to succeed, Lu Yun's palm that was grabbing the metal artifact suddenly vanished. Zhou Wen felt his palm empty. There was nothing left. Haha, junior brother, I'm inferior to you in fighting, but when it comes to stealing, you're still far from me. Furthermore, I gave you a chance just now, but you didn't take it. Now that I've gotten it, you can't snatch it from me. Lu Yun took 2 steps back and looked at Zhou Wen smugly. Clearly, he had no idea where the metal artifact had gone. Zhou Wen felt somewhat regretful. If he had known this would happen, he would have used universe reversal to get the metal artifact. But it was already too late. Even if Zhou Wen wanted to use universe reversal, it was useless if he couldn't find the metal artifact. Congratulations on obtaining a treasure, eldest senior brother. It's best you take a careful look. That item might not be of use to you. However, Zhou Wen wasn't the kind of person who believed that all the treasures in the world belonged to him. Since he had been careless and let Lu Yun snatch it, he didn't plan on vying for it. Aha, I understand the mentality of saying that the grapes are sour because you can't eat them. Don't worry. I'll check it carefully, but don't you dare touch it again. Lu Yun teleported far away before waving his hand again. It was unknown how he had conjured the metal artifact. As he guarded against Zhou Wen, he carefully observed the metal artifact. Soon, he summoned another epic companion beast and threw it in. A magical scene happened again. The metal artifact trembled. In just a short while, the epic companion beast that Lu Yun had thrown in advance to the mythical stage. Haha, I finally struck it rich. Lu Yun roared with laughter, so happy that he nearly jumped up. End of this chapter. Chapter 17:13. It's indeed not bad to be able to advance ordinary companion beasts to mythical companion beasts. In other words, Zhou Wen was implying that mythical companion beasts were no longer of much use to people at their level. How do you know that this thing can only advance to a mythical companion beast? However, Lu Yun wasn't convinced. He summoned a Terra-grade companion beast and got it to enter the metal artifact. Zhou Wen didn't believe that this item could evolve a Terra-grade companion beast into a calamity. In that case, a calamity would be too worthless. The metal artifact trembled again, but even when it stopped trembling, Lu Yun's companion beast didn't come out. What's wrong? Could it be that the companion beast was devoured by the metal artifact? Zhou Wen looked at Lu Yun in puzzlement. Lu Yun's expression was somewhat shocked before it turned from shock to pleasant surprise. Then he laughed out loud. Don't tell me this fellow has gone mad from anger? Zhou Wen frowned slightly. You're the crazy one. He summoned his companion beast from the metal artifact. The companion beast had really advanced from the Terra grade to the Calamity grade. No way. He really advanced to the Calamity level. Zhou Wen was a little stunned. That's not all. Look at what this is. Lu Yun was so happy that his mouth was leaking air. He reached out and touched the metal artifact. After a while, Lu Yun pulled his hand out again. He was holding something in his palm. Look, do you know what this is? Lu Yun opened his hand and saw 3 circular crystals of different sizes in his palm. The small one was about the size of a pigeon's egg, and the big one was like a duck's egg. All of them were colorful and seemed to have some kind of fragrance. What is this? Zhou Wen saw that it didn't look like an essence energy crystal, nor did it look like a domain core. He had no idea what it was. Haha, let me tell you, don't be envious, jealous, or hateful. These are all treasures among treasures. Just now, my Terra-grade companion beast only ate one the size of a bean and directly advanced to the Calamity stage. The 2 just took a whiff and advanced to the mythical stage. Furthermore, there were no side effects. There are 3 more here. Each one is countless times bigger than that one. Ha! Be envious. Be jealous. Unfortunately, you were too late. These treasures are all mine. Lu Yun was so excited that he was almost incoherent. There's such a thing? Zhou Wen gaped in envy. I got it. The metal artifact is definitely Grand Supreme Elder's alchemy furnace. This is the immortal pill refined by Grand Supreme Elder. Perhaps it's the legendary 9 Revolutions golden pill. As Lu Yun spoke, his eyes suddenly lit up. He stared at the 3 crystals in his hand and muttered to himself, this item doesn't have any attributes. Any companion beast can use it. I wonder if humans can use it. Lu Yun was about to go crazy from wanting to advance to Calamity, but Jing Daoxian refused to let him take shortcuts or accept the resources of the dimension. Therefore, Lu Yun kept working hard, but he was still a distance away from advancing to Calamity. Now that these 3 treasures were suddenly placed in front of him, how could he not think too much? Furthermore, by looking at the stats of the 3 companion beasts after they evolved, not only could this item evolve companion beasts, but the evolved stats were also supreme grade. They were in no way inferior to companion beasts that evolved using domain cores. You'll know once you try it, Zhou Wen said casually. To his surprise, Lu Yun stared at the crystals in his hand for a while before throwing the smallest one into his mouth. Holy sh*T. Do you have a death wish? You dare eat this randomly? What's with Grand Supreme Elder's golden pill? Is Kunlun related to Grand Supreme Elder? Zhou Wen was alarmed. Although the items were good, he couldn't eat them randomly. Something that was a divine medicine for companion beasts might be poison if eaten by humans. How can it not be related? Legend has it that Kunlun is the holy land of Taoism. I know what I'm doing. Luyan didn't mind at all, as though he was confident. Just as he said that, Zhou saw Luyan's skin turn crystalline as though a colorful luster was emitting from it. Luyan's expression was excited and pleasantly surprised. He reached out and swallowed the two large crystals. Just as he swallowed the two crystals, he saw a colorful stream of light rise from Luyan's body. It was as though an immortal aura spewed out, emitting a strange fragrance. Luyan circulated the sky-stealing, sun-shifting art. Starlight shone around him as though he was the center of the universe. Countless stars revolved around him like a pocket universe. The pocket universe was originally just a monotonous white. As the immortal aura fused with it, it gradually turned into a gorgeous color. The energy nurtured inside became more and more terrifying. Can it really be done? Could it really be Grand Supreme Elder's golden pill? Zhou was dumbfounded. Luyan was clearly condensing a calamity domain to advance to the calamity grade. Now, Zhou really regretted it. If he had taken action earlier, these treasures would have been his. Soon, Luyan's calamity domain condensed and officially advanced to the calamity grade. Haha, junior brother, to think that you would have such a day. You finally suffered at my hands, right? Not only did this thing allow me to advance to the calamity grade, but the calamity domain condensed is also the best of the best. Luyan looked up and laughed. He looked smug as though he was an emperor who had obtained the empire. Congratulations, eldest senior brother, Zhou said as he couldn't help but glance into the cave. Since there was such an item in the cave, there might be more. Even he was very tempted by such a treasure. The two of them looked at each other and instantly understood what the other was thinking. They rushed into the cave almost at the same time. Although the immortal sword was good, they might not be able to obtain it. However, the treasures here were real. If it was really Grand Supreme Elder's alchemy lab inside, wouldn't they make a killing? Thinking of what Monkey Sun had done after entering Grand Supreme Elder's alchemy lab, Zhou and Luyan wanted to do it again. The two of them rushed into the cave one after another. Thankfully, they were rather rational people. They weren't completely blinded by the benefits. They were very careful and even summoned several companion beasts to scout ahead. To their surprise, although the path was rugged and long, there was no danger at all. The two of them carefully proceeded forward, and nothing happened. After a long time, the two of them finally reached the end of the cave. They crawled out a hole and found a stone chamber inside. There were no dimensional creatures in the stone chamber. The two of them sized up the stone chamber, and as they looked, their expressions turned odd. The decorations in the stone chamber were very simple. There were almost no decorations. There was a hole in the ground, and on both sides of the hole were two stone slabs that were raised above the ground. From the shape of the hole, the metal artifact from before was likely embedded in the hole. Such a setup made the two of them have a very ominous association. Chapter 17:14. Eldest senior brother, don't you think this layout looks like something? Zhou said as he stared at the pit in the ground. I don't think so. Luyan turned his face away and deliberately avoided looking at Zhou. Put that metal artifact into the pit. I think it looks more like... Before Zhou could finish his sentence, he was rudely interrupted by Luyan. Shut up. What do you mean it looks like? It doesn't look like anything. What's the point of saying so much nonsense? There's a door there. Let's see if it can be opened. As Luyan spoke, he walked towards the door without looking back as though he was fleeing for his life. There seemed to be a faint gagging sound. Zhou immediately understood that Luyan definitely had the same thoughts as him. No matter how I look at it, it looks like a toilet. Don't tell me the metal artifact is Kunlun Mountain's toilet. If the metal artifact is really a toilet, then wouldn't the so-called golden core that Luyan ate be? Zhou muttered inwardly. However, on second thought, I don't think so. How strong are those fellows in Kunlun Mountain to be able to poop that can advance someone to the calamity stage? The door here can be opened. There seems to be a garden behind it. Luyan had already pushed open the door crack, and peeked through the crack. Zhou hurriedly followed and peeked through the crack. Indeed, he saw a garden outside. All sorts of strange flowers and plants that he had never seen or heard of before were scattered in the garden. They looked like they grew naturally without any artificial care, but they had a strange beauty to them. It was as though they were supposed to be like this. The garden seemed to be huge, with no end in sight. Above him was the blue sky and white clouds. There were no other buildings outside. "There seems to be a creature over there," Lu Yun whispered. Zhou also saw a huge white bird lying in a patch of flowers in the distance. Due to the flowers, he couldn't see its full appearance. He could only tell that its upper body resembled a peacock, but there were some differences. "Could that be the phoenix you mentioned?" Zhou asked Lu Yun softly. "Are you stupid? Phoenixes live on divine trees. How can there be a phoenix in a grass nest? Besides, have you seen a white phoenix?" Lu Yun rolled his eyes and said unhappily, "That's true. The one in the grass nest is a pheasant." Zhou thought about it and realized that it made sense. Through the crack in the door, the two of them carefully looked around. Aside from the white pheasant, they didn't see any other creatures, nor did they see any other buildings. "That's strange. There's only one pheasant here. Who's the squatting pit for? Could it be that wild bee *tch? Zhou mumbled, "Do you believe that I'll fight you to the death if you say another word?" Lu Yun felt like vomiting again, but he forcefully suppressed it. "I'm just saying." "Don't take it seriously. Maybe it's not a squatting pit at all," Zhou said with a smile. Lu Yun gritted his teeth and didn't say a word. He continued observing the commotion outside. After a while, he said, "Should we go out and take a look? There seems to be only one pheasant in this garden. It shouldn't be too dangerous." That might not be the case. Zhou didn't think so. If the item inside the metal artifact was really created by the pheasant, Zhou felt that he and Lu Yun would be sending themselves to their deaths. "Forget it. Let's go out. There's not much time left. Let's get the sword early," Lu Yun said gloomily. Just as the two of them were about to return, they suddenly heard a strange cry coming from the garden. "Ga." The white bird let out a strange cry that sounded like a duck. The sound was as unpleasant as it could be. After a few cries, the white bird stood up. Only then did Zhou and Lu Yun see its full appearance. Its head looked a little like a peacock, but its back body looked like a pheasant. It didn't have the long feathers of a peacock. "Pooey, it's really a pheasant." Lu Yun cursed inwardly. If the item inside the metal artifact was really excreted by this pheasant, just the thought of it made his stomach churn. After the pheasant stood up, it slowly strolled in the garden. With a few steps, it would peck at the flowers. It was unknown what it was pecking at. When Zhou saw what the pheasant was doing, he felt a chill run down his spine. The pheasant was pecking at the grass fruits in the grass, but the grass fruits looked somewhat strange. The grass fruits were typically the size of a fist, and they looked like babies in the womb. With Zhou's eyesight, he could see that the grass fruits had clear facial features. If it wasn't for the fact that they grew on the grass vines, he would have thought that they were babies that had been dissected. The pheasant swallowed a grass fruit in one mouthful. It was unknown what it tasted like. "Don't tell me this is a ginseng fruit. That thing blooms every 3,000 years and bears fruit every 3,000 years. It takes another 3,000 years for it to mature and 10,000 years for it to grow." Lu Yun's eyes lit up. It was obvious that he was up to something again. "Are you out of your mind? Ginseng fruits grow on ginseng fruit trees. This is clearly a grass fruit. Furthermore, the legendary ginseng fruit should be in the house of that Earth immortal ancestor. Why would it be on Kunlun Mountain?" Zhou said unhappily. "That's true." Lu Yun was immediately a little discouraged. As the two of them spoke, they suddenly heard the pheasant let out the unpleasant cry again. It even started running. Zhou hurriedly looked over and was slightly surprised by the scene he saw. He saw the pheasant running with all its might, chasing after a grass fruit. The grass fruit was much bigger than the average grass fruit. It was completely white and looked like a chubby baby. The pheasant chased behind, and the grass fruit baby ran in front, jumping up and down in the garden. The pheasant couldn't catch up to him. After watching for a moment, Luyan secretly exclaimed in his heart that it was a close shave. Thankfully, he hadn't really gone out. Otherwise, if he had really been targeted by the pheasant, it would have been a problem if he could have come out alive. The speed at which the pheasant chased after the grassfruit baby was so fast that even the two calamity grades couldn't see it clearly. Even if they could see it clearly, their body's reaction speed wouldn't be able to keep up. Let's leave quickly. Luyan felt that this place was too dangerous. It was best to leave as soon as possible. Let's watch a little longer. Zhou kept staring at the grassfruit baby. The grassfruit baby's speed was in no way slower than the pheasant's. Furthermore, he could use the soil, flowers, and other objects in the garden to use escape techniques. From the looks of it, not only was he proficient in earth escape, but he could also use wood escape and water escape. This thing is a little like a ginseng baby companion beast, but it's of a higher level. Ginseng baby only knows earth escape, but this fellow has already displayed 3 escape techniques. Don't tell me it can use all the 5 elemental escape techniques? Zhou paid attention to the grassfruit baby. Chapter 17:15. Holy sh*t, these 2 things are awesome. Luyan's eyes were already crafty enough. He could almost see through a typical calamity grade battle. However, he could no longer see the pheasant and grassfruit baby's actions. All he could see were 2 beams of light jumping up and down in the garden. I'm afraid it's even more awesome than you imagine, Zhou added. His words came from the bottom of his heart. Zhou had already seen top calamity creatures. Even powerful existences like Truth Listener and Purple Star Lord couldn't do what the pheasant and grassfruit baby were doing. Zhou didn't know if the pheasant and grassfruit baby were creatures above the calamity level, but there was one thing he was certain of. In terms of speed, the pheasant and grassfruit baby were already above Truth Listener and Purple Star Lord. Of course, Zhou didn't have any speed measuring device. At their level, it was difficult to tell the difference in speed with the naked eye. However, there was a very obvious difference between Purple Star Lord and the pheasant. When Purple Star Lord and Truth Listener moved at such speeds, they would produce a terrifying shockwave. Just a shockwave alone could destroy everything under the calamity. However, the pheasant's speed was so fast. Ignoring the shockwave, there wasn't even the sound of an air explosion or breaking through the sound barrier. Even the flowers and plants beside it weren't damaged at all. It looked like it still had some strength left. Just this alone proved that it was extraordinary. Zhou vaguely felt that the pheasant might be a legendary apocalyptic existence, but it was only a guess. After all, he had never seen what an apocalyptic one looked like. Perhaps it was a top speed type calamity. Junior brother, what do you think that baby-like grass fruit is? Even such a powerful dimensional creature wants to eat it. What will happen if we eat it? Luyan couldn't help but whisper as he watched enviously. I advise you not to court death. Zhou was also envious, but he knew how terrifying the pheasant's speed was. Just this speed alone wasn't something they could match up to. If Zhou fused with Brahma, he could still fend it off. However, Luyan would definitely die instantly. It wouldn't even be considered instant death. I'm not stupid. I was just thinking about it. I'll go back and flip through the books to see what those fruits are. Even if I can't eat the big ones, aren't there many small fruits in the garden? Perhaps I can think of a way to get a few. Luyan was a thief. If he returned empty-handed after entering the treasure garden, it would be very uncomfortable for him. Ow! Do you dare to go out and pluck them? Zhou naturally wanted to get a few grass fruits, but with the pheasants outside, the risk was just too great. It's indeed a little dangerous for us to steal it ourselves. While the pheasant is distracted by the grass fruit doll, we can get a companion beast to steal it. I have a companion beast that's best at earth escape and invisibility. It shouldn't be difficult to get it to burrow under the grass fruit and pluck 2 grass fruits before returning. Luyan changed the topic and continued. However, just in case, I think we should cooperate. You should also get a few companion beasts. If my companion beast is discovered, I can go out in time to distract the pheasant's attention so that my companion beast can return safely. When the time comes, each of us will get a portion of the grass fruit. However, there's one thing you have to take note of. That pheasant's level is definitely not low. Typical companion beasts will probably find it difficult to attract its attention. It's best you take out some high-level companion beasts. Dream on. Using my high-level companion beasts as cannon fodder. Zhou curled his lips. If you have a companion beast that can invisibility and earth escape, you can steal the grass fruit. I can release a companion beast to block a bullet for you. You have to do something, right? You can't just sit there and wait for the benefits, right? Lu Yun said with a smile. I don't have such a companion beast, but I don't want to be cannon fodder. If you want to steal it, go ahead. I won't snatch it from you. Zhou really didn't plan on stealing it. After all, the dungeon was already being downloaded. When the dungeon was downloaded in the future, he could retrieve the grass fruit in-game. There was no need to take the risk. All right, let's make it clear first. Don't be jealous of the grass fruit I bring back. Don't snatch it from me when the time comes. Lu Yun had previously wanted to pull Zhou along because he was afraid that Zhou would spoil his plans. Don't worry, I'm not the kind of person who would do that, Zhou said. You are that kind of person, Lu Yun said without mercy. All right, I promise I won't touch the grass fruit you stole. Is that fine? Zhou said as he spread out his hands. That's more like it. Lu Yun nodded in satisfaction before summoning his companion beast. Zhou originally wanted to take a closer look at what companion beast Lu Yun had summoned, but his phone suddenly rang. Is the dungeon over? Zhou was somewhat puzzled. The dungeon's download time was much faster than he had imagined. According to past experience, the higher the level of the dungeon, the slower the download time. It had only been a short while, but the dungeon had already been downloaded. Didn't that mean that this dungeon wasn't very high level? However, when he thought about it again, he felt that something was amiss. From the metal equipment and crystal to the pheasant and grass fruit doll, none of these items could appear in a low-level instance dungeon. This instance dungeon was undoubtedly a high-level instance dungeon. If this is really a high-level dungeon, there's only one possibility left. After charging the phone, the download speed increased. Zhou guessed as he took out his phone to take a look. Indeed, there was an additional icon on the phone's home screen. It was the symbol of Shi Chung Mountain. It's really Kunlun Mountain. Zhou was pleasantly surprised when he saw the name below the icon. Kunlun Mountain's status in the mythical realm was just too high. It was likely that there weren't many dimensional zones on Earth that were higher than Kunlun Mountain. If one had the strength to clear the Kunlun Mountain dungeon, they would be able to dominate all the dimensional zones on Earth. More importantly, a dimensional zone like Kunlun Mountain might be a test for Earth's companion beasts to choose their owners. After clearing it, there might be Earth's companion beasts that could be obtained. Of course, if he really discovered that Kunlun Mountain was a test for Earth's companion beasts, Zhou could also take precautions in reality to prevent others from clearing the dungeon. It was to prevent Earth's companion beasts from appearing and blowing up Earth. Let me see what's the difference between Kunlun Mountain's normal and hidden modes. Zhou already had some guesses, but he still needed to confirm them. After opening the Kunlun Mountain dungeon, Zhou first chose normal mode. After entering, he realized that the blood-colored avatar was standing in front of Kunlun Mountain's north gate. It circled Kunlun Mountain but didn't discover anything special. Then, he switched to hidden mode and entered the Kunlun Mountain dungeon again. Soon, he discovered something, but this time he discovered more. In the past, the hidden modes of the dungeons only had one spot with a hidden light notification. However, the Kunlun Mountain dungeon had 5 spots with hidden light notifications. From the looks of it, they were the 5 hidden doors of Kunlun Mountain. Chapter 17:16. Out of the 5 spots with hidden light, 2 of them were this cave and the pool that Lu Yun had taken Zhou to. Zhou chose to open the cave in-game. Just as he was about to enter, Lu Yun had already released his companion beast and lurked towards Xiaogua. It was a companion beast that looked like a rat, but it was slightly larger than a cat. After it was summoned, its body trembled and it vanished in front of Zhou. It was unknown what kind of invisibility it had used, but even his hearing couldn't detect its existence. Lu Yun actually has such a companion beast? Zhou was alarmed. Just as he was about to use other methods to see if he could spy on it, the companion beast had already crawled out of the stone chamber and headed for Xiaogua. Although Zhou, when couldn't see it, he could vaguely sense where the companion beast was. After switching a few primordial energy arts and using Brahma's powers, he saw its true body. Its invisibility ability was useless under Brahma's Buddha eyes. The companion beast was also proficient in earth escape. After entering the garden, it vanished the moment it landed. When it appeared again, it was already beside a Chaogua. It extended its claws and was about to pluck the Chaogua when he suddenly saw a white light flash. Before Lu Yun could retract the companion beast vanished. The pheasant's figure appeared there. It raised its neck as though it had swallowed something. My shadow mouse. Lu Yun's expression changed drastically. The other companion beasts he had prepared didn't have the time to attract the pheasant's attention. Zhou didn't dare continue gaming. He kept observing the pheasant's reaction. As long as the pheasant made any movements, he would immediately escape. Thankfully, the pheasant didn't seem to notice the stone chamber. After swallowing Lu Yun's shadow mouse, it immediately chased after the Chaogua baby. Eldest senior brother, my condolences, Zhou consoled. My ass, that's a unique shadow mouse. It wasn't easy for me to feed it to the calamity grade. Do you know how much effort I spent on it? Lu Yun was so depressed that he even cursed. It's all fate. Let's leave quickly. Zhou didn't wish to waste any more time here. Since he had already downloaded the game, there was no point in staying any longer. Although Lu Yun was still somewhat indignant, he knew that there was nothing he could do. Just as he was about to leave with Zhou, he suddenly saw a flash of light. The grassfruit doll had entered the stone chamber and stood between Zhou and Lu Yun. Its large eyes, which didn't match its face, were rolling back and forth as it sized up Zhou and Lu Yun. Holy sh**t. Zhou and Lu Yun felt a chill run down their spines. They immediately had the thought of escaping, but that thought only existed in his mind. Before he could realize it, he saw a white figure standing there. It was the white pheasant. It's over. Both of their hearts were cold. However, none of them were the kind of people who would sit still and wait for death. Almost without thinking, they instinctively made the most intuitive response. Lu Yun teleported to the garden outside the stone room. There was a pheasant standing at the hole at the exit. Teleporting, there was almost equivalent to courting death. There might be a chance of survival if they rushed into the garden. Almost at the same time, Zhou made the same reaction. However, while Zhou teleported, he had already fused with Great Brahma. When he teleported, he was already wearing dark golden armor. The dark golden wheel behind him emitted a dark light like a black hole. Bam! The two of them who teleported at the same time slammed into a stone wall and bounced back. Lu Yun sat on the ground. Zhou could barely stand, but he felt his head buzz from the impact. He felt like he had a concussion. The pheasant and the grassfruit doll remained standing in their spots, looking at the two of them from the left and right. I told you to get the sword earlier, but you insisted on turning around. Now, you've caused trouble, haven't you? My life is in your hands, Lu Yun said with a sullen expression. He knew that he couldn't escape, so he didn't even bother getting up. All he did was sit on the ground and look at the two creatures. Zhou didn't move again. He had already activated his teacher domain and was scanning the situation in the stone chamber. He wanted to know what force had trapped them in the stone chamber. Strangely, there were no traces of the pheasant and grassfruit doll's nomological powers in the stone chamber. Clearly, the force that prevented them from teleporting out of the stone chamber didn't come from the two strange creatures. Is it the stone chamber's power that prevents us from leaving? Zhou thought to himself. Zhou and Lu Yun didn't move. The pheasant and grassfruit doll didn't take the initiative to attack. All they did was size them up as though they were curious about them. I didn't let you in, Zhou said casually, but his eyes were tilted to the half-open door of the stone chamber. Teleportation couldn't leave the room, but it didn't mean that he couldn't leave. Perhaps this stone chamber only restricted teleportation. If he walked out through the door, he wouldn't be restricted. However, Zhou knew very well that with his speed, it was impossible for him to be faster than the pheasant and grassfruit doll. They hadn't made any aggressive moves yet. If he rashly rushed out, he might immediately infuriate them. In any case, nothing good happens when I'm with you. My life will be ruined by you sooner or later. Luyan also realized the subtle situation he was in. He only sat there and spoke without any intention of rushing out. The pheasant's silver eyes sized up the two of them, but after a while, it seemed to lose interest in them. It then focused its gaze on Grassfruit Doll. From the looks of it, this fellow isn't interested in eating meat. Zhouwen was immediately delighted. Indeed, the pheasant raised its claws and walked to the side as though it wanted to circle around Zhouwen and Lu Yun to continue grabbing Grassfruit Doll. Lu Yun was also ecstatic. At that moment, he didn't dare say anything else to prevent agitating the pheasant. As long as the pheasant charged at Grassfruit Doll, the two of them would have a chance to enter the pit and leave this terrifying place. Zhouwen was calculating how far away the pheasant was from the pit before he could successfully rush in, but to his surprise, just as the pheasant took 2 steps, Grassfruit Doll moved as well. The figure of Chao Guodal flashed and disappeared from their line of sight. "Junior brother, your head." Lu Yun widened his eyes as he looked at Zhouwen's head as though he had seen a ghost. If it wasn't for the great Brahma armor covering Zhouwen's face, no one would be able to see his face. They would definitely realize that his expression was even uglier than Lu Yun's. This was because the Grassfruit Doll had jumped onto Zhouwen's head and sat on the dark golden helmet. Its fair feet hung above Zhouwen's forehead as it swayed back and forth. He still couldn't calm down. There were still 2 chapters to update during the day. Into this chapter, Chapter 1717. Junior brother, it's not that I don't want to help you, but you are just too unlucky. You have to accept your fate. In the future, I'll burn more paper money for you on this day every year. I'll definitely burn 3 incense sticks every year. Lu Yun said as he retreated. The pheasant's eyes stared intently at Zhouwen's head. It carefully raised its claws and approached Zhouwen like a ferocious bird that was about to attack at any moment. Lu Yun had seen the pheasant's speed. The grassfruit baby might be able to dodge its beak, but Zhouwen probably wouldn't be able to. He might be instantly pierced through by the beak. No matter how strong his recovery was, he probably wouldn't be able to survive. Zhouwen stared at the pheasant motionlessly, but his mind was racing. If Zhouwen reached out to chase the grassfruit baby away, he might attract the pheasant to immediately attack. However, if Zhouwen didn't do anything, the pheasant's aura would definitely reach its peak. Its attack would definitely be unbelievably fast. When that happened, it would probably be even more difficult to deal with. Moving was wrong, but not moving was also wrong. Instantly, Zhouwen was in a dilemma. If he were an ordinary person, the first choice would definitely be to shake off the grassfruit baby on his head, but Zhouwen didn't do so. The grassfruit baby clearly wants to use me as a shield. Unfortunately, I'm not someone you can do whatever you want. There's a price to pay for using me. With a thought, Zhouwen circulated the first order of chaos. The chaos egg instantly enveloped his body, including the grassfruit baby above his head. Typically, the chaos egg could only protect Zhouwen himself, but if he was too close, things like clothes could also be enveloped. Zhouwen watched from his side for a long time. He could tell that although the grassfruit baby's escape technique was unique, its offensive strength was probably inferior to the pheasant's. By enveloping it in the chaos egg and with great Brahma protecting him, he didn't have to worry that the grassfruit baby could harm him inside. When the grassfruit baby realized that it was trapped by the chaos egg, it wasn't worried in the beginning. It even sized up the chaos egg curiously. When the pheasant saw the chaos egg, it was also somewhat curious. It didn't immediately attack. After observing for a moment, it exerted strength with its claws and appeared in front of the chaos egg like a ghost. It then bit down at the chaos egg's beak. The chaos egg's defense was nearly invincible. Even the Heaven Realm Purple Star Sovereign was unable to break through the chaos egg's defense. It was only because she was too powerful that the chaos egg produced too many primordial energy crystals, causing it to explode. Although the pheasant's strike was terrifying and could penetrate all indestructible objects, it failed to penetrate the chaos egg. The chaos egg's outer shell sank in like a balloon that had been compressed and deformed. However, it did not rupture in the end and forcefully blocked the pheasant's beak. Inside the chaos egg, a large number of essence energy crystals appeared out of thin air. The speed was in no way inferior to Purple Star-Lord's attack. However, this attack nearly filled the chaos egg with essence energy crystals. There was almost no space left. Chow Guodal was startled, and his figure flickered as he tried to use an escape technique to escape. However, when its head struck the chaos egg, it failed to escape. It rebounded and landed on Zhou-Wen's head again. Zhou-Wen felt a lot more at ease. Although the pheasant's offensive strength was powerful, it was still within the calamity grade. It didn't have any crushing destructive power. As long as it's not at the apocalyptic stage, my great Brahma might still be able to put up a fight. Zhou-Wen secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Chow Guodal was somewhat anxious. It tried a few more times, but it failed to rush out of the chaos egg. Just as Zhou-Wen had expected, although its escape technique was very special, it was difficult to achieve it in an independent space. Instead of leaving heaven, you chose to seek refuge in hell. You asked for it. Don't blame me. With a thought, the chaos egg flew into the garden. At the same time, he used Imperial Lord Behemoth to devour the large number of essence energy crystals produced in the chaos egg. The flustered Chow Guodal suddenly stopped moving. Its eyes stared at the essence energy crystals as though it had discovered a new continent. No way. Zhou-Wen realized something. Before he could do anything, Chow Guodal opened its mouth and sucked many of the nearby essence energy crystals into its mouth. Its tiny mouth didn't look big, but the speed at which it devoured the essence energy crystals was even faster than Imperial Lord Behemoth. In a moment, more than half of the essence energy crystals were sucked into its stomach. Its tiny body was like a bottomless pit. Large numbers of essence energy crystals were sucked in, but its stomach didn't react at all. It didn't even swell a little. The pheasant outside seemed a little surprised that its attack failed. When it saw the chaos egg fly towards the garden, it beaked again. Although the chaos egg wasn't slow, it was still much slower than the pheasant. It was easily beaked. The chaos egg produced a large number of essence energy crystals again. According to Zhou-Wen's original calculations, even with Imperial Lord Behemoth devouring the essence energy crystals, the chaos egg would only be able to withstand 4 or 5 strikes before exploding from the essence energy crystals. However, now that Chow Guodal had sucked away a large number of essence energy crystals, there weren't many essence energy crystals left after the pheasant pecked the chaos egg a few times. Most of them have been sucked away by Chow Guodal. This guy really is an egg emperor. However, this thing's defense is stronger than I imagined. It can actually withstand this level of attack. Liu Yin was shocked. He wasn't surprised by Zhou-Wen or the Egg Sovereign, but by the Chaos Egg's defense. Liu Yin didn't know what was amiss. He imagined that the Chaos Egg could really fight the pheasant, but Zhou-Wen couldn't help but frown slightly. Although he was temporarily safe and the Chaos Egg wouldn't explode anytime soon, Chow Guodal's body gradually produced some strange changes as it absorbed the essence energy crystals. Chow Guodal's body was snow-white and crystalline, like a snow-white lotus root. At that moment, a strange red glow gradually suffused its snow-white body. The red light resembled a sunset or smoke as it emitted from its snow-white body. It made Chow Guodal look a little livelier, like a pale patient with a ruddy complexion. As a large number of essence energy crystals were sucked away, the red light became stronger and stronger. The pheasant attacked a few times, but it failed to crack the Chaos Egg. As though it was annoyed, it used all its strength. Its head was like a sewing machine as it kept tapping its beak on the Chaos Egg. The essence energy crystals in the Chaos Egg instantly expanded. Zhou-Wen was originally worried that they would explode, but he never expected Chow Guodal's absorption speed to accelerate. The essence energy crystals that had just been produced were almost instantly sucked into its stomach. Chapter 17:18. Joe didn't know if he should be happy or worried. Due to the existence of the grass fruit doll, he temporarily didn't have to worry about the chaos egg exploding. However, it was also because of the grass fruit doll's existence that Joe was somewhat worried. This thing had absorbed so many essence energy crystals, and its body was turning redder and redder. Now, it was like a red-hot soldering iron. Who knew what other tricks it could come up with? Although the grass fruit doll didn't have much offensive strength, it didn't display any powerful offensive means after being trapped by Joe. It seemed to only have a slightly powerful escape technique. However, things in the world were sometimes hard to say. Water was considered a relatively soft substance, so it was typically difficult for it to harm the human body. However, ignoring the river breaching its banks and tsunamis, just increasing the water pressure to a certain level would allow the water to cut through rock and steel. If the grass fruit doll underwent any abnormal changes after absorbing a large number of essence energy crystals, it might become an existence even more lethal than the pheasant. Although he realized that a problem might arise, he didn't have a good solution. If he unsummoned the chaos egg now, Joe would have to face the pheasant's frenzied attacks. The attack power that the pheasant displayed was definitely not weaker than Truth Listener's. Of course, Truth Listener's strength didn't completely lie in its offensive power. However, to be able to match Truth Listener in terms of offensive power was already a headache for Joe. If it wasn't for the fact that Truth Listener can't be summoned, I wouldn't have ended up in such a situation. Joe steeled his heart and forcefully charged towards the stone chamber's door. As Joe expected, although the stone chamber prohibited spatial powers, it didn't prohibit entry and exit from a door. The chaos egg immediately squeezed out of the stone chamber's door and rolled into the garden. The pheasant rushed out as well, continuing to peck at the chaos egg crazily. The grass fruit doll's body was already as red as crystal. The red light inside was somewhat blinding. Thankfully, its body didn't have any temperature, so it didn't cause any substantial damage to Joe. Joe attempted to use his teleportation ability in the garden and realized that he wasn't restricted again. However, when he teleported out, the pheasant had already appeared beside him and continued pecking. Being able to use spatial teleportation made Joe feel much more at ease. Previously, after the sky-stealing, sun-shifting art advanced to the Calamity Realm, his teleportation ability had been greatly enhanced. Although he still couldn't continuously teleport without any gaps, it wasn't something the average person could compare with. Seeing that Strawberry Doll's body seemed to be undergoing a tremendous change, Joe knew that he couldn't wait any longer. Once Strawberry Doll really underwent a qualitative change, his situation might become even worse. Stealing his heart, Joe put away the chaos egg. He and Chao Guo were exposed in front of the pheasant. Almost at the same time, Joe used Universe Reversal to quickly teleport to escape the pheasant's attack. Anyway, the wild chicken's original target was the grass fruit doll. Even if it was accidentally injured at the beginning, as long as it withstood the first attack, the wild chicken would probably go after the grass fruit doll. Joe's plan was very good, but when he teleported out, he realized that the grass fruit doll had appeared behind him like a shadow and was lying on his shoulder. The pheasant pecked down at the same time, so fast that he couldn't even teleport away in time. If a tiger doesn't show its might, do you think I'm Holly Kitty? The great Brahma armor on Joe's body shimmered as he punched out. Previously, Joe hadn't been willing to fight the pheasant head-on. Firstly, he was worried that the pheasant's combat strength was too strong. Secondly, he was afraid that the battle would cause too much of a commotion and attract other terrifying creatures. This was Kunlun Mountain, an unimaginably terrifying place in Legends. Legend had it that great immortals gathered here. Who knew how many terrifying creatures like pheasants existed here? But now, he couldn't care less. It was more important to save his life. Bam! Joe originally imagined that his full-powered strike would destroy a large area of the garden. However, to his surprise, after his fist collided with the pheasant's beak, there was only a dull thud. The expected explosion and shockwave didn't appear. There's something wrong with this garden. Zhou Wen immediately realized the problem. When the pheasant and Chao Guo were chasing each other, there weren't any explosions or shock waves. From the looks of it, it wasn't because they could control their strength, but because there was a certain force in the garden that suppressed the spread of the energy fluctuations. The power of a heaven realm great Brahma had destructive power that could destroy almost everything, but it didn't gain any advantage against the pheasant's strength. Thankfully, Zhou Wen didn't suffer. The pheasant was sent retreating by Zhou Wen's punch. Zhou Wen's legs went limp as he nearly knelt to the ground. This didn't mean that great Brahma's strength was inferior to the pheasant's, but because Zhou Wen's physique was too poor. His Terragray body was still too weak in such a battle. Just the remnant force that entered the great Brahma armor was enough for his body to withstand it. Holy **T. Junior brother, what's this armor of yours? Why is it so powerful? Lu Yun, who was secretly watching from the stone chamber, saw Zhou Wen send the pheasant retreating a few steps with a single punch. It nearly stumbled and fell as his eyes turned red with jealousy. The pheasant's ferocity was also stimulated by Zhou Wen's punch. It flapped its wings and charged forward with a strange squawk. It circled around Zhou Wen like a beam of light and constantly attacked. Lu Yun couldn't see the pheasant's actions at all. Although Zhou Wen could see the pheasant's actions clearly with Great Brahma's augmentation, Great Brahma wasn't good at speed. What he could see, he couldn't keep up with it. He brandished his fist to block a few pecks, but no matter what, he couldn't dodge or block the next peck. Just as Zhou Wen was about to use his body to withstand the pheasant's peck, he suddenly felt his vision blur. His body had inexplicably appeared elsewhere in the garden. Grass Fruit Baby. Zhou Wen immediately realized what had happened. Grass Fruit Baby, who was lying on him, must have used an escape technique to bring him away from the pheasant's peck. How could the pheasant give up? It charged over almost at the same time and engaged in an intense battle with Zhou Wen again. Great Brahma's destructive power was completely unafraid of the pheasant's powerful strength, but its speed was inferior. However, every time Zhou Wen was in danger, Grass Fruit Baby would take the initiative to use an escape technique to help him dodge the attacks. It was difficult to determine the victor. How did Junior Brother cultivate? He's actually reached such a level with a pure human body. Lu Yun was dumbfounded as he watched. He was so envious that he drooled. However, Zhou Wen wasn't very happy because what he was worried about seemed to have happened. In the depths of the garden, a terrifying aura came from afar. Chapter 17:19. Half the sky in the garden was dyed golden. It was an extremely huge golden bird. It looked like an eagle, but not an eagle. When it spread its golden wings, it seemed to cover half the sky. Holy **T. Could be a golden-winged rock? Zhou Wen remembered that he had seen a creature that resembled a rock in the past, but it wasn't this huge or had such a terrifying aura. Zhou Wen couldn't be sure if it was a golden-winged rock, but one thing was certain. The golden-winged bird was at least at the heaven realm. It might even be at the legendary apocalypse stage. I can't stay in this godforsaken place any longer. As Zhou Wen fought the pheasant, he rushed towards the stone chamber. After fighting in the garden for so long, he failed to find any way out. The sky above the garden looked like it had a blue sky and white clouds. His spatial powers weren't restricted, but when Zhou Wen wanted to use interstellar teleportation to leave, he realized that he couldn't contact the stars outside. The garden seemed to have no end. No matter which direction he scanned, he could only see an endless garden. The pheasant was smarter than Zhou Wen imagined. It clearly saw through Zhou Wen's intentions and stopped fighting him. Instead, it blocked the stone chamber's entrance and blocked his only way out. The stone chamber had a spatial restriction, so he could only force his way in. Zhou Wen gritted his teeth as the great Brahma armor on his body swirled with a dark light, erupting with unparalleled destructive power. Accompanied by Zhou Wen's fist, he slammed it at the pheasant blocking the door. Although great Brahma's speed was inferior to the pheasant's, its destructive power wasn't inferior to the pheasant's. Zhou Wen wanted to forcefully blast the pheasant away and rush into the stone chamber to escape. The pheasant was very stubborn. Despite knowing that its strength was inferior to Zhou Wen's, it refused to dodge. It even wanted to forcefully stop Zhou Wen. Just as Zhou Wen was secretly delighted that his fist was about to strike the pheasant, a golden light suddenly rose in front of him. The resplendent, golden-winged bird appeared behind the pheasant. A pair of golden, sculpture-like wings bent downwards to protect the pheasant's body. Boom! The destructive power struck the golden wings, but not a single feather was damaged. The golden-winged bird's body seemed to be stronger than the pheasant's. After hitting the young, the old comes. Junior brother, take care. I'll be leaving first. Lu Yun shouted before burrowing into the hole in a flash and slipping away without looking back. Zhou Wen lamented inwardly. From the looks of it, the white pheasant was most likely the golden-winged bird's fledgling. If a fledgling was already so terrifying, there was no need to mention the golden-winged bird. Just its speed and defense made Zhou Wen lose the desire to fight. The golden-winged bird was clearly infuriated by Zhou Wen's punch. It raised its head and let out a bird cry. The golden light on its body trembled as it spread its wings that blotted out the sky. It was about to flap at Zhou Wen with a terrifying aura. Zhou Wen was already prepared to fight with all his might. The black hole-like wheel of light behind the great Brahma armor spun as though it was connected to hell. Just as the battle was about to break out, he suddenly heard an ear-piercing and unpleasant cry. When the golden-winged bird heard the cry, it suddenly stopped flapping its wings and slowly retreated. What does it want? Zhou Wen frowned as he looked at the pheasant and the golden-winged bird on its back. The pheasant was still calling out strangely at the golden-winged bird. The golden-winged bird took a few steps back and suddenly did something that nearly made Zhou Wen's eyeballs pop out. It actually bowed its head in front of the pheasant. From the looks of it, it was extremely reverent towards the pheasant. It didn't look like a mother treating her child, but like a subject bowing to a monarch. The pheasant was still angrily shouting at the golden-winged bird that was bowing its head in front of it. Its arrogant manner made it look like a slave owner was insulting its slave. The golden-winged bird lay there motionless. No matter how the pheasant cursed it, it remained indifferent, as though it was only right for the pheasant to treat it this way. Heavens! What's going on? The golden-winged bird is very similar to the legendary golden-winged roc. Even if it's not a golden-winged roc, it's at least a heaven realm existence. In terms of combat strength, it's above the pheasant. Why is it so respectful to the pheasant? Zhou Wen was dumbfounded. The pheasant seemed to have enough cursing. Then, it turned to look at Zhou Wen. In the next second, it pounced over, looking like it wanted to skin Zhou Wen alive. Zhou Wen had no choice but to fight the pheasant again. To its dismay, the golden-winged roc blocked the stone chamber's door, preventing Zhou Wen from having a chance to rush in again. What the hell is this pheasant? Zhou Wen was puzzled. The pheasant's combat strength was clearly inferior to the golden-winged bird, but the golden-winged bird was so respectful of it. Apart from its natural bloodline and racial advantage, Zhou Wen really couldn't think of why the golden-winged bird would fear the pheasant. Could it be that this pheasant is a real phoenix? Zhou Wen couldn't help but suspect. In some myths, it was said that the phoenix had once given birth to Wisdom King Peacock and the golden-winged roc. If that golden-winged bird was really a roc, then the only thing that could make the golden-winged roc bow its head in terms of bloodline and race was probably the phoenix. Even Wisdom King Peacock couldn't do it. However, no matter how he looked at it, the white bird in front of him looked like a pheasant, not the legendary supreme god of birds, the phoenix. On second thought, Zhou Wen realized that it wasn't impossible to accept it. The chick he raised was also a phoenix species. Ignoring the fact that it didn't look like one when it was young, it didn't look like one now. They were both phoenix species, but the chick's level was clearly not as high as the pheasant's. This made Zhou Wen suspect that the chick's phoenix bloodline wasn't pure. Could it be that a real phoenix species actually looks like a pheasant? Zhou Wen thought to himself. The pheasant constantly attacked Zhou Wen. From the looks of it, it was determined to kill Zhou Wen personally before giving up. After the golden-winged bird was reprimanded by the pheasant, Although it had no intention of attacking Zhou again, it kept staring at him covetously. From the looks of it, as long as the pheasant suffered any damage, it would immediately rush over and tear Zhou to pieces. From the looks of it, it's time to use the true power of Great Brahma. Regardless of whether you're a real phoenix species or not, I'll kill you first. Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. You were the one who wanted to die. The small perfection of Wisdom Sutra in Zhou Wen's body circulated crazily as the great Brahma armor on his body became more mysterious and unfathomable. The black hole halo behind him didn't change in size, but it seemed to devour everything nearby. All living beings are equal. Zhou Wen stood in the garden like a Buddha. Facing the pheasants pecking, he slowly closed his eyes and let out strange syllables that sounded like Buddha's voice in the sky. Chapter 1720. The pheasant was used to being lawless in Kunlun Mountain. It didn't care as it pecked down. Zhou Wen's eyes remained closed, but he seemed to have already predicted the pheasant's attack trajectory. He raised his palms slightly and extended a finger, blocking the pheasant's beak. The moment the two made contact, the wheel of light behind Zhou Wen was like a real black hole that instantly devoured everything. The man and pheasant didn't seem to change at all, but the surrounding environment had become extremely strange. The garden that was just inches away vanished. The grass, flowers, and trees vanished. The golden-winged bird that had been eyeing him covetously had also vanished. It was as though only Zhou Wen and the pheasant were left in the world. There was only darkness around them. The pheasant was slightly taken aback as it sized up its surroundings, seemingly puzzled. All living beings are equal. They only have one life. Zhou Wen's eyes remained closed as he walked towards the pheasant. The true power of the Nirvana domain was naturally not as simple as destructive power. This was where the true power of the Nirvana domain lay. In the Nirvana domain, all power and life were isolated. Only living beings that had been pulled into the Nirvana domain by Zhou Wen could touch Zhou Wen's body. Any living being outside the Nirvana domain, even as powerful as the golden-winged bird, could only see an illusory phantom. They were unable to touch anything inside the Nirvana domain. Unless the living being locked onto by the Great Brahma domain died, or the Great Brahma domain was destroyed, no external force could affect Zhou Wen, who was inside the Great Brahma domain. The golden-winged bird noticed something amiss and let out an angry cry. Its wings slashed at Zhou Wen with terrifying golden light. However, the golden light that could slice through everything seemed to slash at an illusion. No matter how many times it slashed at Zhou Wen's body, it failed to injure him at all. The two seemed to be in two completely different spaces. The pheasant remained as domineering as ever as it transformed into a white beam and charged at Zhou Wen. Zhou Wen's heart was already filled with killing intent, but his face didn't show it. He was as calm as a Buddha. With a slight movement of his body, he dodged the pheasant's peck and punched at its abdomen. The pheasant flapped its wings and instantly soared into the air, dodging Zhou Wen's fist. At the same time, a pair of hook-like claws grabbed at Zhou Wen's eyes in a split second. Only one face and a pair of arms were left under Brahma's armor. But this did not mean that his other abilities had disappeared. It was just that this face had fused with his other abilities. Faced with the pheasant's claws, Zhou Wen's speed was too slow to dodge or block. He had no intention of dodging or blocking either. He forcefully used his visor to block the pheasant's unstoppable claws. Bang! The indestructible chicken claw struck the dark golden armor, but it failed to penetrate it. It didn't even make Zhou Wen take a step back. Instead, the chicken let out a tragic cry as though it had suffered a heavy blow and was sent flying. Lord Brahma also had the ability to reflect damage. After the four sides combined, this ability became even stronger. Looking at the pheasant that was sent flying, Zhou Wen's figure tore through the void and instantly appeared in front of the pheasant. He threw punch after punch, bombarding the pheasant's body like a storm. Bang! Bang! The pheasant suffered a series of attacks as its body staggered and distorted in midair. It had to be said that the pheasant's body was extremely powerful. Ordinary calamity-grade beings would have long been shattered by such a destructive force. However, the pheasant only let out a tragic cry as its feathers were constantly sent flying. However, it didn't suffer any fatal blows, nor did it lose its combat strength. In fact, in the gaps between Zhou Wen's attacks, it even extended its claws and beak to counterattack. However, when its attacks landed on Zhou Wen, it was the one injured. Seeing Zhou Wen crazily attack the pheasant, causing its feathers to fly everywhere, the golden-winged bird outside let out an angry cry. The golden light on its body surged like a volcanic eruption as it slashed at Zhou Wen's figure again and again. However, such a terrifying attack was completely useless. It could clearly see Zhou Wen, but all its strength passed through Zhou Wen's body. It couldn't touch his body at all, as though it was just a mirage. No matter how destructive the golden-winged bird's strength was, it was useless against Zhou Wen, who was inside the great Brahma domain. All he could do was worry helplessly outside. It doesn't matter if you're a phoenix or a pheasant. Even if you're the son of the universe, you're only a living being. You only have one life. Fight with your life. This battle is only between you and me. Zhou Wen punched the pheasant again and again. Every strike wasn't fatal, but it caused the pheasant to cry out repeatedly. The feathers on its body were constantly torn apart. The pheasant's body was originally covered in white feathers, but many parts of its body had already revealed golden skin. The skin was crystalline like a golden crystal, as though there was a seven-colored light flowing within it. After suffering such a ferocious blow, although the pheasant cried out repeatedly, its ferocity was stimulated. The seven-colored light in its body became more and more intense. What was even more terrifying was that the pheasant originally only knew simple attacks like pecking and clawing. It was far inferior to Zhou Wen's techniques, but as time passed, the pheasant's techniques became more and more varied. In fact, no technique that Zhou Wen had used before could injure the pheasant a second time. If it were any other calamity, they would probably be at their wits' end. It would be difficult for them to injure the pheasant at all. However, no matter how many combat techniques Zhou Wen had, it was as though there was no end to them. Although it looked like a simple punch, it contained endless variations, making it difficult for the pheasant to predict his attack trajectory. In terms of strength, Zhou Wen might not be the strongest on Earth, but in terms of combat realm and techniques, if Zhou Wen said that he was second, no one on Earth would dare say that they were first. Ignoring the infinite variations of the 3,000 sword intents, just the small perfection of wisdom's formless realm was enough to make Zhou Wen magical. It was as though simple moves had become unpredictable and unpredictable in Zhou Wenhua's hands. The pheasant was constantly bombarded, and the sky was filled with broken feathers. Screech! Just as it was about to turn into a bald pheasant, the pheasant suddenly let out a strange cry. The seven-colored light in its body burst out, and its entire body was enveloped in strange colors. Its body that was about to turn bald instantly transformed into seven-colored feathers that covered its body again. Not only that, but its body also underwent an inexplicable change. The feathers on its head grew longer, and the tail feathers on its back grew longer as they danced like immortal clouds. The seven-colored feathers on its body spread out in the wind. After it spread its wings, a seven-colored glass-like brilliance rose and danced, lingering around its body like an immortal cloud. At this moment, the pheasant no longer looked like a pheasant. It was clearly a seven-colored phoenix surrounded by immortal aura. Chapter 17:21. You call this a phoenix? Why doesn't it look as authentic as a bird? Zhou Wen saw that the seven-colored phoenix was extremely beautiful, but because it was too beautiful, it lacked some domineering aura. In Zhou Wen's impression, phoenixes were supposed to be covered in golden flames, domineering and noble. Although such a dazzling and colorful creature did resemble a phoenix, it still left Zhou Wen somewhat doubtful. After being bullied for so long, The pheasant was already extremely furious. At that moment, it transformed into a seven-colored phoenix and spat out rainbow-like flames. Zhou condensed the power of great Brahma and punched at the seven-colored flames. The power of great Brahma rarely met its nemesis. Its destructive power was extremely powerful, but when the power of great Brahma encountered the seven-colored flames, it lost its destructive power and was forcefully disintegrated by the seven-colored flames. What flame is this? It can actually restrain the power of great Brahma. Zhou was alarmed as he hurriedly teleported to dodge the seven-colored flames. Junior brother, Zhou was fighting the seven-colored phoenix when he suddenly heard Lu Yun's voice ring in his ear. Didn't you run away? Why are you back? Zhou heard the voice, but he didn't see Lu Yun. He didn't know where he was hiding, nor did he have the time to find him. What do you mean I ran away? I want to get reinforcements for you, Lu Yun said. Where are the reinforcements you got? Zhou asked as he fought. I haven't found any reinforcements yet. Be careful. I think the bird you are fighting is most likely a phoenix. Lu Yun paused for a moment before continuing. Don't think that phoenixes only spew fire. In ancient myths and legends, phoenixes are actually extremely terrifying existences. This phoenix is probably the kind of phoenix in ancient myths and legends. It has terrifying might. Zhou didn't have the time to speak to him. The power of great Brahma was restrained, and his speed was inferior to the phoenix's. He could only rely on his skills to fight the seven-colored phoenix, but he was already at a disadvantage. Have you heard of the legend of phoenixes giving birth to rock and peacock? Lu Yun continued, sending a voice transmission. Cut the crap. Tell me something useful. Zhou really wasn't in the mood to listen to his story. With Brahma's powers restrained, it was very difficult for him to fight. From what I can see, your power seems to be somewhat similar to the Buddhist lineage. Back then, Mahamayuri was able to devour Buddha. From this, it can be seen that the peacock's power has a restraining effect on the Buddhist lineage. As for the phoenix, it is the peacock's ancestor. Its power restrains you. You could try fighting it with a different power. Perhaps it will be better, Lu Yun said. Zhou was somewhat depressed. He naturally knew that he wouldn't be restrained if he switched to another power, but he needed to switch. The only power at the heaven realm was Brahma. Powers below the heaven realm couldn't even touch the phoenix. Truth Listener hadn't completed its mutation, so it couldn't be summoned. Can't you say something useful? Zhou failed to dodge in time, as the seven-colored flames were about to burn him. His vision blurred as he realized that he had been teleported far away, dodging the seven-colored phoenix's attack. Only then did Zhou recall that the grassfruit baby was still lying on his shoulder. It was the one who had escaped with Zhou, allowing him to dodge the seven-colored flames. All right, I'll forgive you for being uncultured. Have you heard of a legendary peacock that can use five-color divine light? I reckon that the seven-colored flames of this phoenix are even more terrifying than the five-color divine light. It's best you don't touch it, Lu Yun said. Zhou didn't wish to be touched by the seven-colored flames either. Even the power of Brahma could disintegrate it. Being touched by it might mean death. Thankfully, the grassfruit baby was very impressive. As long as Zhou was in danger, the fellow would use an escape technique to escape with Zhou. He was very obedient. I can't care so much. I'll let it off easy. Zhou knew that this couldn't continue. The seven-colored phoenix's speed was much faster than his, and Brahma was restrained by the seven-colored flames. Now, he could only think of other solutions. At the same time, he circulated Brahma and the Chaos Egg. Just as the Chaos Egg protected Zhou's body, the seven-colored flames enveloped it. Thankfully, as Zhou had expected, the Chaos Egg wasn't directly burned through. However, the essence energy crystals inside were produced crazily, almost instantly exploding. Zhou got Empyrean Lord Behemoth to crazily absorb the essence energy crystals, but it was just a drop in the bucket. Thankfully, the grassfruit baby didn't disappoint him. It opened its tiny mouth and instantly sucked away most of the essence energy crystals. The red light in its body became brighter and brighter, like a crystal lamp. Although what Lu Yun said is a little far-fetched, it's not completely impossible. A phoenix can give birth to a peacock and a roc, so there's no reason why a phoenix can't do the same. The golden-winged roc's speed is unparalleled. The legendary peacock does indeed have the five-color divine light. This phoenix has the speed of a roc and the five-color divine light of a peacock. Furthermore, it's an upgraded version. It probably won't be easy to kill it. If Truth Listener is here, it shouldn't be difficult for me to find an opportunity with it. For the time being, he wasn't worried that the Chaos Egg would explode. Zhou carefully observed the seven-colored phoenix, hoping to find its weakness. Sure, you analyzed the seven-colored phoenix's energy trajectory over and over again, but his analysis speed was very slow. He didn't know how long it would take to completely analyze it. After grass fruit baby crazily devoured for a period of time, the red light in its body gradually dimmed. It turned into a red heart that appeared in its chest. After the heart completely solidified, grass fruit baby's body gradually returned to its original appearance. It was no longer as transparent as before. When grass fruit baby completely recovered, it stopped devouring the essence energy crystals. Zhou was immediately given a fright. The reason why the Chaos Egg could last until now was because Grassfruit Baby had absorbed the essence energy crystals. Otherwise, the Chaos Egg probably wouldn't have lasted more than 2 seconds in the seven-colored flames. Indeed, in the blink of an eye, the Chaos Egg reached its limits and was about to explode. Just Empyrean Lord Behemoth alone couldn't absorb much. Bam! The Chaos Egg still couldn't hold on and exploded. Zhou body was immediately exposed. Thankfully, he had used spatial teleportation to leave his previous spot and didn't get tainted by the seven-colored flames. You brat, don't just eat and not work. Haven't you already completed your evolution? Quickly beat up that crappy bird. Zhou was still hoping that the evolved grass fruit baby could fight the phoenix so that he could take the opportunity to escape. However, the grass fruit baby sprawled on Zhou's back without any intention of fighting. It was unknown if it had a good temper and didn't have any thoughts of revenge, or if it knew that its strength was inferior to the seven-colored phoenix, so it didn't dare fight it. Just as he was feeling depressed, he suddenly realized that something was amiss with the Chaos Egg. In the past, after the Chaos Egg exploded, its foundation would be damaged. It would take some time to condense again. This time, after the Chaos Egg exploded, Zhou didn't feel its foundation being damaged. It seemed like he could continue using the Chaos Egg. Zhou gave it a try, and indeed, the Chaos Egg appeared outside him again. Chapter 17:22. Why can the Chaos Egg suddenly be used continuously? Zhou knew that the Chaos Egg had definitely undergone some changes, but he wasn't sure what had caused this change. Such a change was definitely related to the use of the Chaos Egg. Either the seven-colored phoenix or the grass fruit doll had affected the Chaos Egg. Zhou was more inclined to the former. With this thought in mind, Zhou tried again. After the Chaos Egg exploded again, he could immediately use it again. He didn't need to wait for a period of time like before. This is a little strange. The Chaos Egg clearly hasn't advanced to the Heaven Realm, but it's very different from before. What's going on? Zhou, when carefully sensed the Chaos Egg's every shattering and rebirth, he increasingly felt that the changes in the Chaos Egg were related to the seven-colored phoenix. Or rather, it was related to the seven-colored flames. After being burned by the seven-colored flames, the Chaos Egg underwent such a change. Previously, the Chaos Egg had exploded countless times, but there weren't any special changes. Now, there's actually such a change. Could it be that this seven-colored phoenix is really different? Then, if this continues, will the Chaos Egg have a chance of advancing to the Heaven Realm? Zhou thought. The Chaos Egg hadn't changed for a long time. Now that he finally saw the opportunity to advance to the Heaven Realm, Zhou naturally couldn't let it go. Only someone like Zhou, who had many life preservation means, would be running for their lives. How could he have such thoughts in such a battle? The chaos egg exploded again and again. Zhou could clearly sense that the chaos egg, which had been silent for a long time, finally had an obvious change. It really worked. Zhou was overjoyed. "Junior brother, why aren't you escaping? What are you dawdling for?" Lu Yun's voice sounded again. He sounded puzzled. "Eldest senior brother, didn't you say that the sword was protected by a phoenix? Is that phoenix the same as this one?" Zhou asked. "It's about the same. They're both rainbow-colored, but they seem slightly different. It's definitely not the same one. Furthermore, that phoenix has always been rainbow-colored, unlike this phoenix that was a pheasant from the beginning," Lu Yun answered. "Does that mean that as long as I can deal with this phoenix, it shouldn't be difficult to obtain the sword?" Although Zhou said that, he had a different thought in mind. Zhou wasn't too concerned about the sword. He was wondering if he should find another phoenix to try his luck if the 7 colored flames of this phoenix couldn't advance the chaos egg to the heaven realm. "What are you thinking? Unless you get Human Emperor's companion beast out, there might still be some hope. Otherwise, stop dreaming," Lu Yun probed. "Not necessarily." Zhou thought to himself, "Truth Listener's attack strength is indeed strong, but the chaos egg's defense isn't weak either. If it can advance to the heaven realm, it might be able to withstand the 7 colored phoenix's flames." Zhou didn't say anything else. When Lu Yun saw the chaos egg explode again and again, he imagined that Zhou was just being stubborn. He continued, "Hold on a little longer. I've already contacted the old fellow. When he comes, he might have a way to help you escape." Jing Daoxian is already in the heaven realm. Zhou was somewhat alarmed. "Not really, but the old fellow has a lot of ways. There are some things we can't do, but he has a way to resolve them. I have to be impressed by this. The older, the wiser," Lu Yun said. Zhou believed that a person like Jing Daoxian couldn't be measured purely by his level. Although Zhou wanted to know what level Jing Daoxian was at, it wasn't appropriate for him to ask Lu Yun. After all, he and Jing Daoxian might be enemies in the future. Even if Lu Yun was willing to tell him, Zhou really wouldn't be able to hear it. Why isn't the old fellow here yet? When Lu Yun saw the chaos egg crack again and again, he was somewhat worried that Zhou wouldn't be able to last long. However, he had already sent a message, but he didn't receive an answer. Jing Daoxian didn't appear either. It's really not bad. It's worth installing it for all readers. It supports both Android and Apple phones. However, Zhou's endurance far exceeded Lu Yun's expectations. Every time Lu Yun felt that Zhou wouldn't be able to last much longer, Zhou would still persist after a long time. In the end, Lu Yun was almost numb. "I wonder what essence energy art this junior brother of mine cultivates. Why do he have so many strange abilities? How many essence energy arts does he cultivate?" Lu Yun guessed. Typically, people would only cultivate one essence energy art. It was very rare to see humans who could cultivate 2 essence energy arts at the same time. However, with Lu Yun's understanding of Zhou, he definitely didn't only have 2 essence energy arts. "If I didn't know that it's impossible for this fellow to join the dimension, I would have thought that he had long betrayed us. It's really unbelievable that a pure human can reach this level." Lu Yun actually suspected that Zhou was like Wang Mingyuan, no longer human. Otherwise, it was almost impossible for others to advance to the mythical stage even if they cultivated 2 essence energy arts. However, Zhou was already at the Calamity Realm. Furthermore, the essence energy arts he used weren't as simple as 2. It was unknown how many times the chaos egg had shattered. Zhou finally felt that it seemed to have reached a critical point. Without much of a stir, it was as though it was a matter of course. When the chaos egg was summoned again, it had already advanced to the heaven realm. It was somewhat different from before. "I've reached the heaven realm." Zhou looked at the chaos egg. He also wanted to know what kind of changes there would be in a heaven realm chaos egg. The greatest possibility was that the number of essence energy crystals would increase. However, when the 7 colored flames burned over, Zhou realized that the number of essence energy crystals didn't change. It was still in the hundreds of millions. Then, there was no way for him to continue stacking them. Soon, Zhou was pleasantly surprised to discover that a large number of essence energy crystals had appeared in the Chaos Egg. In the past, the Chaos Egg would have long exploded, but now there were so many essence energy crystals in the Chaos Egg, but it didn't feel crowded at all. The Chaos Egg's interior space has increased. No, it's not as simple as it getting bigger. The 7 colored flames constantly burned the Chaos Egg. The number of essence energy crystals in the Chaos Egg was uncountable, but despite the limited space, it couldn't be filled. The Chaos Egg stopped shattering. After a while, he suddenly heard Lu Yun's voice. Furthermore, his emotions seemed rather unstable. Holy **T, don't tell me that you planned on using the phoenix to cultivate from the beginning? Lu Yun shouted. He could tell that the Chaos Egg had advanced. No, I just practiced it at the last minute, Zhou said truthfully. Lu Yun fell silent. After a while, he heard Lu Yun squeeze out 2 words from between his teeth. Be ****. Chapter 17:23. The Chaos Egg at the Heaven Realm still didn't have much offensive strength, but its defense was already unimaginably sick. Even a strange power like the 7 colored flames could hardly cause any substantial damage to the Chaos Egg. From the looks of it, the Chaos Egg is a pure defense-type essence energy art. It would be even better if it had some offensive strength, Zhou thought greedily. With the Heaven Realm Chaos Egg protecting him, the 7 colored flames could no longer injure Zhou. Instead, the essence energy crystals inside the Chaos Egg were uncountable. It benefited a gluttonous companion beast like Tyrant Behemoth. After all, essence energy crystals were useless. Zhou got companion beasts that could absorb essence energy crystals to do their best. Under Imperial Lord Behemoth's frenzied devouring, it had already advanced to the Hell Realm. As long as there was enough time, advancing to the Heaven Realm was only a matter of time. It's still easier to rear a companion beast like Imperial Lord Behemoth. As long as there's food, it can advance. If others knew of Zhou's thoughts, they would probably vomit blood in anger. If it were an ordinary person raising Imperial Lord Behemoth, it would be pretty good if they didn't starve to death. Advancing to the Calamity Realm was an extravagant hope. Explosive Fiend Man had also devoured quite a number of essence energy crystals and was about to advance to the Calamity Realm. This was one of the few companion beasts that could advance to the Calamity Realm with essence energy crystals. Brother, stop fooling around. Leave quickly. The Immortal Sword over there doesn't wait for anyone. If it's really taken by the Immortals, it will be too late to cry, Lu Yun said gloomily. Although Zhou wanted to stay here and use the 7 colored flames to raise his companion beasts, hoping that he could raise Imperial Lord Behemoth to the Heaven Realm before leaving, he gave up on it after some thought. Since he already had the method and the dungeon had been downloaded successfully, there were plenty of opportunities in the future. There might not be a chance for the sword in the future. For example, something like the Immortal Culling Sword might not exist in-game. It was useless even if he downloaded the dungeon. If that sword was really the same set as the Immortal Culling Sword, it was better for it to land in his hands and in the hands of the Immortals. If this were in the past, Zhou might have been hesitant and unwilling to take the risk. Now that the Chaos Egg had advanced to the Heaven Realm, he had fewer worries. Let's go. Zhou stopped fighting the 7 colored phoenix and charged towards the stone chamber. The 7 colored phoenix chased after Zhou indignantly and spewed fire. It wished it could immediately burn Zhou to ashes, but unfortunately, it could only watch helplessly as Zhou rushed into the stone chamber and burrowed into the hole. The golden-winged bird was even more anxious and angry, but unfortunately, it couldn't touch Zhou at all. It was unknown if the 7 colored phoenix and the golden-winged bird thought that the pit was a latrine pit and refused to enter, or if there was some other reason, but they did not chase down. Let's go back. Seeing that the 7 colored phoenix didn't chase after him, Zhou dispelled the Chaos Egg in the tunnel, planning on letting the grass fruit baby return by itself. Although this thing was magical, there were too many variables. It wasn't within Zhou Wen's control, so bringing it back might be troublesome. Furthermore, typical calamity creatures couldn't leave dimensional zones easily. It wasn't easy for creatures to break out of dimensional zones. It wasn't difficult to break out of ordinary dimensional zones, but it wasn't that simple to break out of a dimensional zone like Kunlun. Chaogwa sat on Zhou Wen's shoulder as though he hadn't heard him. He remained motionless as he looked at Zhou Wen with an innocent look. Go back to your place. Zhou Wen pointed inside. However, Chaogwa remained motionless as though he didn't understand what Zhou Wen was saying. Forget it. When we reach the exit, it will naturally return if it can't leave. Zhou Wen continued walking towards the exit. To his surprise, after Zhou Wen left the exit, Chaogwa followed him out of the Kunlun Mountain dimensional zone without any obstacles. He wasn't stopped by the dimensional zone. You're finally out. Lu Yin was already waiting outside. He heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Zhou Wen come out. Where's your patriarch? Zhou Wen looked around and didn't see Jing Daoxian. Don't mention it. There was no response after the news spread. I wonder where he went. Lu Yin shrugged and continued. Let's not talk about this for now. We're much later than scheduled. I don't know if we can make it in time. Let's go. Zhou Wen didn't say anything else as he turned and headed for the pool. Aren't you going to get rid of this thing first? Lu Yin pointed at Chaogwa, who was sitting on Zhou Wen's shoulder. Bringing such an unknown object to such a dangerous place was tantamount to carrying a ticking time bomb. Who knew when it would cause trouble? Zhou Wen glanced at Chaogwa and pondered for a moment before shaking his head. Forget it. Let's talk when we get there. Lu Yin didn't say anything else as the two of them headed for the pool's entrance. The pool's entrance was beneath the pool. It was like an underground river. After reaching the end, there was an even larger pool. One could even hear endless rumbling sounds. Before they surfaced, Zhou Wen used his master domain to scan the nearby area and realized that this place was completely different from the place they had entered. This was a huge canyon, and they were under a waterfall. The waterfall was probably 10,000 feet tall. The water that poured down was like a roaring white dragon hanging on the mountain wall. It looked extremely spectacular. However, he didn't see the phoenix or immortal sword that Lu Yun had mentioned. Water flowed in the canyon, and there were many fungi growing on the cliffs on both sides. The large ones were almost the size of houses, and the small ones were about the size of millstones. They were stacked on the stone walls, and, at a glance, one would think that they were layers of domed sheds. The fungi were colorful and beautiful. The entire canyon was like a fairy tale world. Be careful. The spores emitted by these mushrooms are everywhere. If you accidentally inhale them, they will parasitize your body and suck your flesh and blood dry. Lu Yin knew that Zhou Wen's eyesight had likely reached the level of microscopic vision, allowing him to see the spores. However, he still warned him. Don't tell me there are dimensional creatures like Ganoderma dolls here. Zhou Wen remembered reading on the internet that someone had obtained a Ganoderma doll's companion beast. They had extremely powerful recovery skills that allowed them to recover from ordinary injuries almost instantly. It was said that they also had the ability to revive the dead. As long as a person was still breathing, they could be healed no matter how serious their injuries were. However, that ability seemed to require the sacrifice of a Ganoderma companion beast. Even so, it was already very enviable. Zhou Wen had long wanted to obtain one, but it was just too rare. He couldn't even buy it, and he didn't know which dimensional zone produced it. I didn't hear Old Master mention such a thing. He only told me that the spores here are extremely terrifying. I mustn't let them invade my body, Lu Yun said after some thought. Lu Yun's words reminded Zhou Wen of one of his companion beasts. Chapter 1724. After Zhou Wen made Primordial Spore an evolvable companion beast, he hadn't found a suitable way to evolve it to a higher level. In the past, Primordial Spore had once devoured other spores to evolve. Now that there were spores everywhere in a valley, he didn't know if he could let Primordial Spore devour them to evolve. However, Primordial Spore's level was too low. He was afraid that it would be devoured here, so Zhou Wen didn't dare rashly attempt it. He planned on experimenting in-game in the future. The immortal sword is at the end of the valley. We have to rush over as soon as possible. Don't use spatial teleportation here, and don't fly too fast. Follow me, Lu Yun said as he soared into the sky and slowly flew towards the end of the valley. Why can't I fly too fast? Zhou could understand that he couldn't use spatial teleportation. There were spores everywhere. If he used spatial teleportation, his body might overlap with the spores after teleporting out. It was equivalent to him taking the initiative to put the spores into his body. That was equivalent to courting death. There are too many spores. If we fly too fast, we will attract a large number of spores. Don't think that it's easy to isolate them, but it's different when there are more. Anyway, this place is very dangerous. It's more reliable for us to follow the old man's method, Lu Yun explained. Zhou nodded and slowly flew behind Lu Yun. The lone peak towered into the clouds, but the mountain was somewhat strange. Typical mountain peaks were narrow at the top and wide at the bottom. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to withstand the pressure of the rocks and would easily collapse. However, this mountain peak was narrow at the bottom, wide in the middle, and narrow at the top. It was like a strange, shuttle-shaped mountain that stood at the end of the valley. From afar, it looked like it would collapse at any moment. Under this strange mountain peak, a man and a woman were looking up at the mountain peak. Immortal supremacy. The immortal sword is inserted at the top of the mountain. However, there is a phoenix resting on this mountain. Once we approach the mountain, we will attract the phoenix's attack. I can only send you here, immortal supremacy, Wang Mingyuan said in a neutral tone as he stood behind the woman. The woman stared at the mountain for a long time before saying, "What you said is true. The immortal sword is really at the top of the mountain. This mountain is indeed protected by a phoenix." "How would I dare lie to you, immortal supremacy?" Wang Mingyuan said. "However, since I have personally come, you only need to follow me up the mountain. Although the phoenix is an ancient divine creature, with me here, I won't be able to harm you in the slightest," the woman said indifferently. "Celestial supremacy. According to our agreement, I'm only responsible for bringing you to the celestial sword. Furthermore, with my meager combat skills, I'll only cause trouble if I follow you up. I won't be of much help." Wang Mingyuan's underlying meaning was that he was unwilling to follow the woman up the mountain. The woman said without batting an eyelid, "Everyone in the world knows that the phoenix has 5 colors. The female is the phoenix, and the male is the phoenix. Mortals see the dragon as the image of the emperor, and the phoenix as the image of the emperor and the concubines. But they don't know that at the beginning of the chaos, the yin and yang qi in the world were the phoenix and the dragon. That was the real phoenix." After a pause, the woman continued, "At the beginning of the world, before the human race was born, dragons and phoenixes roamed the world. There was a great battle that almost tore the world apart. Do you know who the final victor was? I've only heard of the dragon and phoenix tribulation, but I don't know who won in the end. But if I were to guess, it should be the Phoenix clan." Wang Mingyuan said, "The Buddha clan is willing to put you in such an important position. It seems like you're truly extraordinary." The woman glanced at Wang Mingyuan and continued, "The dragon is yin, and the phoenix is yang." The battle between the dragon and phoenix was indeed won by the phoenix. Although it was a Pyrrhic victory and it was injured, it still obtained the dragon's yin. Only by combining yin and yang can one be called a phoenix. Mortals see the dragon as the image of an emperor and believe that it has a pure yang physique. But in reality, it's just a misconception. How could such a filthy creature have a pure yang physique? It's just that after the dragon and phoenix tribulation, the phoenix's vitality was greatly injured and it has long gone into seclusion. The phoenix that the mortals saw later on was only an ordinary bird that had obtained a bit of the phoenix's true blood. The true inheritance of the phoenix's bloodline has 7 colors. The yin and yang 7-color divine radiance can split the sun and moon. How can it be compared to the phoenix's insignificant flames? The woman retracted her gaze and looked at Wang Mingyuan. In the legends of you humans, there is a saying that the phoenix gave birth to a golden-winged roc and a peacock. Although there are many distortions in this legend, there's one thing that is correct. The abilities of the golden-winged roc and the peacock do indeed come from the phoenix. It's just that they haven't obtained its essence. I've also heard that the peacock has a 5-color divine radiance. I presume that it came from the phoenix. Wang Mingyuan continued. That's not bad. However, the 5-color divine radiance is naturally much inferior to the phoenix's 7-color divine radiance, the woman said indifferently. However, the current phoenix has ultimately injured its essence foundation. It'll be difficult for it to recover its former might. Furthermore, the phoenix here can't be the one from the chaos. It's just a descendant that has been passed down. If it doesn't enter the apocalypse, it will ultimately be considered immortal. Just go up. With me around, it won't be able to harm you at all. Since the woman had already said that, Wang Mingyuan knew that he had no choice but to go up. All he could do was nod and say, I'll listen to your instructions. The woman didn't say anything else as she walked towards the strange mountain. Wang Mingyuan followed behind her as he stared at the mountain without any change in expression. However, Wang Mingyuan was puzzled. I got her to enter through the north gate and take such a long detour. Why haven't Lu Yun and Zhou arrived yet? Could something have happened? Although Wang Mingyuan was puzzled, he didn't show it on his face as he followed the woman up the mountain. Just as the two of them reached the mountain peak, they heard a phoenix cry that alarmed the clouds. A 7-colored beam of light tore through the clouds from the top of the mountain like a rainbow, piercing through the sky as it pounced towards the two of them. If Zhou were here, he would definitely be no stranger to the 7-color divine light. Inside the 7-color divine light was a 7-colored phoenix. The 7-color divine light around, it was identical to the 7-colored flames that Zhou had seen. However, this 7-color divine light's 7-color divine light was purer and thicker than the 7-colored phoenix's 7-color divine light in the garden. It was no longer possible to tell the original form of the flames. All one could see was the color of light. When the woman saw the 7-color divine light charging at her, she had no intention of dodging. She gestured with her hand and formed a sword stance with her index and middle finger. She tapped the air and pointed at the 7-color divine light. An invisible sword chi shot out from his finger. The sword chi was formless and colorless. It could not be seen with the naked eye, but the intent of the sword chi made people feel as if a sharp sword was going against the heavens to meet the rainbow-like 7-color divine light that pierced down from the sky. Chapter 1725. The sword aura and the rainbow light collided, but there was no sound. The two powers strangely entangled with each other, like two strings intertwining to form a rope. The woman stood at the foot of the mountain, while the phoenix flew halfway up the mountain. The woman and the bird seemed to be in a tug-of-war. The situation didn't seem too tense, but in reality, it was a dangerous situation that could affect the whole situation. The two powers entangled with each other. If one side's power was slightly weaker, the two powers would immediately backfire. So, they could only keep squeezing out their own power to fight each other to the end. They didn't dare to relax at all. The phoenix is under my control. Go and kill it. While the woman was fighting the phoenix, she suddenly said to Wang Mingyuan indifferently. Wang Mingyuan frowned. The woman had asked him to fight now. She had ulterior motives. If she didn't have the power to kill the phoenix, she needed Wang Mingyuan to win. If Wang Mingyuan turned on her now, it would be the best time to kill her. But on the other hand, this could be a test for Wang Mingyuan. But who could guarantee that she didn't really have any more power left? If Wang Mingyuan really had other intentions, he would probably miss a great opportunity. If it was someone else, they might have hesitated, but Wang Mingyuan didn't hesitate at all. He used his hand as a knife and generated a knife aura that was like ice and lightning. He swung his hand at the phoenix in the sky. The phoenix couldn't dodge because the woman was holding it back. The knife aura hit its body. It was like a sharp knife cutting through flesh. Its body was cut in half. The 7-color divine light dissipated, and the phoenix's body exploded in all directions. However, in the next second, the scattered seven-color divine light gathered together again and instantly formed the phoenix again. The phoenix spread its wings, and the rainbow feathers on its body shone. It was like a rainbow sun, and the light radiated in all directions. Wang Mingyuan quickly retreated like a ghost, but his speed was not as fast as the seven-color divine light. Seeing that he was about to be injured by the seven-color divine light, he could only condense the power of ice and lightning again in an attempt to resist the seven-colored divine light. But when the light of ice and lightning touched the rainbow light, it immediately disintegrated. It couldn't even resist for a moment. Wang Mingyuan tried his best to retreat, but he couldn't escape the radiance of the rainbow divine light. The armor on his body melted instantly, as if it wasn't a hard armor, but a piece of white snow. The snow-white skin and muscles under the armor melted the moment they came into contact with the rainbow divine light. In the blink of an eye, white bones could be seen. Just as Wang Mingyuan's body was about to be completely enveloped by the rainbow divine light, an invisible force seemed to separate his body from the rainbow divine light, forming a clear barrier. The woman's body emitted an infinite amount of sword energy. The invisible and colorless sword energy was so dense that even the tip of a needle couldn't pierce through it. It forcibly blocked the rainbow divine light. The yin-yang rainbow divine light can disintegrate all things, but my incorporeal sword beam is not one of them, the woman said coolly. Immortal Sovereign is indeed extraordinary. Wang Mingyuan lowered his head and looked at his chest. The flesh there had already melted away, revealing his ribs. He could even vaguely see his beating heart. Focus on healing yourself. After saying that, the woman ignored Wang Mingyuan. She stared at the phoenix, and the sword intent emanating from her body became increasingly incorporeal. The incorporeal sword beam fought against the yin-yang rainbow divine light. Gradually, the incorporeal sword beam gained the upper hand. The invisible and colorless sword energy forcibly suppressed the divine light, forcing it to converge. The phoenix let out a cry, and the divine light shone even more brilliantly. However, it was unable to turn the situation around. In the end, it is not the phoenix from the beginning. The woman sighed and took a step forward. Thousands of sword beams broke through the divine light, instantly piercing through the phoenix's body. The phoenix's colorful body was instantly cut into specks of light. However, in the next second, the specks of light gathered together to reform the phoenix's body. Seemingly aware of the woman's power, the phoenix let out a long cry and turned to fly back up the mountain. Let's go. We'll go up the mountain to check out the immortal sword. The woman did not chase after the phoenix. Instead, she turned to look at Wang Mingyuan. Seeing that the wound on Wang Mingyuan's chest had yet to heal, Wang Mingyuan's healing power seemed to be useless against it. There was a faint seven-colored light around the wound, preventing the flesh from regenerating and healing. The woman waved her hand, and an invisible sword beam suddenly slashed towards Wang Mingyuan. Wang Mingyuan did not move at all, allowing the invisible sword beam to slash his body. The sword beam tore open his wound again, causing more blood to flow out. Why didn't you dodge? The woman looked at Wang Mingyuan and asked. If an immortal sovereign wanted to kill a minor character like me, there would be no need to wait until now. As Wang Mingyuan spoke, he once again used his healing power. This time, his flesh quickly regenerated and the wound healed in an instant. Not bad. After saying that, the woman turned and walked up the mountain. Wang Mingyuan followed behind the woman, and the two of them walked up the mountain. The phoenix could fly freely on the mountain, but the woman and Wang Mingyuan could only walk up the mountain. Even a powerful existence like the woman could not fly freely on this unique mountain like the phoenix. Without the phoenix's obstruction, the two of them quickly reached the mountaintop. There was a grassy field on the mountaintop. In the middle of the grassy field, there was a stone steel. A sword was stabbed into the stone steel, leaving only the sword hilt outside. The body of the sword was completely stabbed into the stone steel. When the sword strikes, heaven and earth will be destroyed, Daluo golden celestial end. The woman looked at the stone tablet and slowly read out the words on it. Her expression became somewhat grim. I wonder who carved these words. They are so arrogant, Wang Mingyuan said. They are not human, the woman said coldly. Not human? Wang Mingyuan looked at the woman with a puzzled expression. This time, the woman did not answer. She waved her hand, and an incorporeal sword beam slashed at the stone steel with the immortal sword. Dang! 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 When the sword beam struck the stone steel, there was the sound of a blade breaking. The stone steel was completely undamaged. The incorporeal sword beam that was powerful enough to break through the rainbow divine light was unable to leave a mark on the stone steel. The woman was slightly taken aback. She looked at the stone steel with a frown and muttered to herself, "Do you hate immortals that much? Even in death, you still want to become enemies with immortals?" After staring at it for a moment, the woman slowly walked towards the stone steel. Standing in front of it, she reached out to grasp the sword hilt and muttered again, "No matter how much you hate immortals, so what? In the end, you're also one of them. How can you say something like destroying heaven and extinguishing immortals? It's just a joke." After saying that, the woman pulled out the sword with all her might, wanting to pull the immortal sword out of the stone steel. As the woman poured endless power into the sword hilt, the entire mountain seemed to tremble. However, the sword did not move at all. It did not even move an inch. Chapter 1726. Zhou Wen and Lu Yun carefully passed through the canyon and finally stood in front of the strange mountain. Kunlun is indeed a mysterious place. We can't see such a strange and tall mountain even after walking so far. We can only see it when standing at the foot of the mountain. If we were to fly, I'm afraid we would crash into it, Lu Yun sighed. Just as Zhou Wen was about to say something, he suddenly saw the mountain shake. Oh no, we were still too late. From the looks of it, the immortals are already retrieving the sword. What did I say? I told you not to wander around, but you refused to listen. It's too late for regrets now, Lu Yun said gloomily. I'm afraid the immortals haven't managed to retrieve the sword, Zhou Wen said as he stared at the mountain. You can see it? Lu Yun looked at Zhou Wen in puzzlement. In such a mysterious place, even all-seeing eyes can't see more than 100 meters. How can I see it? Zhou Wen shook his head. Then how do you know that the immortals haven't managed to retrieve the sword? Lu Yun asked. A man's intuition. Zhou Wen didn't explain as he walked up the mountain. What are you doing? Lu Yun hurriedly stopped Zhou Wen. Teacher told us to retrieve the sword before the immortals come. Now that the immortals are already retrieving the sword, aren't you just asking for trouble if you go up now? If teacher really wanted us to retrieve the sword in advance, he wouldn't have informed us so late. I'm afraid he wanted us to meet the immortals, Zhou Wen said as he walked. He had already stepped onto the mountain peak. Then all the more you can't go up. You know it's a trap, but you still jumped in? Although Lu Yun said that, he followed. It doesn't matter if it's a trap or not. I just want that sword. Go back first. I'll go up and take a look. If it doesn't work, I'll naturally leave, Zhou Wen said. That's fine. With that turtle shell protecting you, you don't have to worry about escaping. Lu Yun stopped and didn't follow Zhou Wen up the mountain, but he had no intention of leaving. Zhou Wen walked toward the top of the mountain step by step. Lu Yun had told him not to fly on this mountain unless it was absolutely necessary, nor was he to use spatial teleportation abilities. Lu Yun didn't know the consequences of using them. Those words had been passed on verbatim from Jing Daoxian. At the top of the mountain, the woman loosened her grip on the sword hilt and said to Wang Mingyuan, who was standing beside her, "You draw the sword." Immortal Sovereign, you must be joking. How can I possibly pull out a sword that even you can't? Wang Mingyuan said calmly. I have my reasons. Just go and draw the sword, the woman said indifferently. Yes, Immortal Reverend. Wang Mingyuan didn't say anything else. He walked up to the stone tablet and reached out to grab the hilt of the sword. He tried to pull the sword out, but it didn't budge at all. Even a human can't pull it out. The woman frowned slightly. I can no longer be considered a human. Wang Mingyuan let go and stepped aside. That makes sense. In that case, let's find a pure human and try it out. After saying that, the woman turned around to descend the mountain. However, when she lowered her head, she saw a figure approaching from the middle of the mountain. Who else here knows about this? The woman turned her head and stared at Wang Mingyuan. I've never told anyone about my discovery of this place. I don't know if others have discovered this place. Wang Mingyuan's expression didn't change. He looked as usual as he continued. If it's a human, wouldn't that be perfect? Immortal supremacy wouldn't have to search for people outside. The woman couldn't tell if Wang Mingyuan was lying, so she didn't ask any further. She turned her head to look at the figure at the foot of the mountain, hoping to determine who it was. On this strange mountain peak, the woman's vision was greatly affected. From afar, she could only see the silhouette of a figure. Zhou Wen's eyesight clearly wasn't that strong. When the woman saw him, he hadn't seen her figure. By the time he saw the woman's figure on the mountaintop, the woman had already seen his appearance clearly. Wang Mingyuan, don't tell me that there's such a coincidence in this world. Others haven't discovered the secret of Kunlun Mountain, but the two of you happen to discover the same secret. The woman's gaze at Wang Mingyuan had already turned cold. There are many coincidences in this world. This isn't surprising. I can swear on my soul that I've never told this secret to my disciple, Wang Mingyuan said as he began to swear. When the woman saw Wang Mingyuan really swear a soul oath, although she was still in disbelief, it was impossible for the soul oath to have no reaction if Wang Mingyuan was lying. It meant that he wasn't lying. From the looks of it, it's really a coincidence. As the woman spoke, she seemed to be preparing to turn around to look down the mountain. However, before she could turn around, she suddenly slashed at Wang Mingyuan. This slash was too sudden, and the woman's incorporeal sword beam was too fast. Before Wang Mingyuan could react, his head was cleaved off by the incorporeal sword beam. When Wang Mingyuan's head flew down from midair, his face was filled with shock and disbelief. It was as though he had never expected the woman to kill him. He couldn't believe it even in death. The path of immortality can't tolerate a speck of dust. The woman seemed to have done something trivial. She didn't even look at Wang Mingyuan's corpse. Under the incorporeal sword beam, it was impossible for anyone to survive unless Wang Mingyuan had the phoenix's nirvana rebirth powers. Unfortunately, Wang Mingyuan wasn't a phoenix, so he didn't have the ability to resurrect. Wang Mingyuan's corpse and head fell down the mountain. Zhou Wen was still sizing up the woman when he suddenly saw something roll down. On closer inspection, his expression changed drastically. Teacher, Zhou Wen reached out to grab Wang Mingyuan's body and head. After confirming it again, his expression turned even uglier. It was indeed Wang Mingyuan's corpse. He was completely dead. In an instant, Zhou Wen seemed to make up his mind. He surprisingly threw Wang Mingyuan's corpse and ran down the mountain. The so-called emotions of humans are really hypocritical. The woman was first taken aback before a sneer suffused her lips. She walked down the mountain. She didn't walk fast, as though she was taking a leisurely stroll. However, as Zhou Wen ran at full speed, the distance between them shortened. Just as Zhou Wen reached the mountainside, he heard a cold voice behind him. The voice seemed to come from behind his neck. If you continue running, I'll chop off your head like your teacher. Zhou Wen's body instantly froze. He stopped in his tracks, not daring to run. He slowly turned around and saw the woman standing less than 3 meters behind him. She was staring at him coldly. Sister, I don't think we know each other, right? Zhou Wen revealed a stiff smile as he looked at the woman. End of this chapter. Chapter 17:27. Are the elites of humans as cunning as you? The woman said as she stared coldly at Zhou Wen. Seeing that the woman didn't immediately attack, Zhou Wen seemed to realize something as he said in thought, That's not right. You make it sound like you're not human. How could I be a lowly creature like a human? The woman said indifferently, I'll give you 2 choices now. Do you want to live or die? The way the woman spoke made it seem as though Zhou Wen's life was already in her grasp. As long as she moved her fingers slightly, she could crush him to death. Sigh. Who would want to die if they could live? Zhou sighed. Since you want to live, then come with me, the woman said as she turned around and walked toward the top of the mountain. Zhou hesitated for a moment before following the woman to the mountaintop. As he walked, he asked, "Why do you want me to follow you up the mountain?" "Do what you originally wanted to do," the woman replied. "I really don't know what I originally wanted to do. Why don't you explain it more clearly?" Zhou said, "If you wish to die, continue acting dumb." The woman didn't seem willing to waste her breath on Zhou as she sped up the mountain. Zhou originally wanted to get some information out of her, but he didn't say anything when he heard the woman say so. Soon, he followed the woman back to the mountaintop. The stone monument and sword hilt on the mountaintop remained the same. Zhou naturally saw them at a glance and couldn't help but recite, "When the sword strikes, heaven and earth are destroyed. Zenith heaven golden, immortal extinction." "Go and pull that sword out," the woman said expressionlessly. "Why do you want me to draw the sword? What kind of sword is that?" Zhou asked the woman, but he thought to himself, could this be the immortal vanquishing sword of the 4 immortal vanquishing swords? The sword didn't have any aura, so Zhou couldn't sense if it was the immortal extinguishing sword from the same set as the immortal culling sword. "If you have the time to talk so much, why don't you just pray that you can pull the sword out? Otherwise, your teacher will be your example," the woman said coldly. "You killed my teacher just because you couldn't pull out this sword?" Zhou asked in surprise. "Don't test my patience." If not for the fact that she didn't want to go through the trouble of finding another human, the woman probably wouldn't have allowed him to speak so much. "Do you mean what you say? If I pull out the sword, will you really let me go? You won't burn the bridge after crossing it, right?" Zhou sized up his surroundings and didn't find the phoenix that Lu Yun had mentioned. He thought that it might have been killed by a woman. "I can only preserve my life in front of the phoenix, but this woman can kill the phoenix. I wonder if the chaos egg can withstand her attack." Logically speaking, Earth hasn't completely broken out of its restrictions. Dimensional creatures will still be greatly restricted on Earth. Even if she's at the apocalypse stage, she shouldn't be able to unleash strength at the apocalypse stage on Earth. "My words are the golden rule," the woman said. "Then I'll believe you this once." As Zhou spoke, he walked towards the stone monument. When he arrived in front of it, he didn't grab the hilt of his sword. Instead, he bowed at the stone monument and seemed to be muttering something, but it was impossible to tell what he was saying. "What are you doing?" the woman asked with a frown. "Didn't you ask me to pray first?" "I'm praying for the heavens to bless me and let me pull the sword out of the stone monument," Zhou said in all seriousness. The woman didn't say anything else as she looked coldly at Zhou. Zhou chanted for a while before looking up and reaching out to grab the hilt of the sword on the stone monument. The hilt didn't resemble the immortal culling sword's hilt in any way, making Zhou suspect if it was the immortal extinguishing sword. Logically speaking, there should be some similarities between the 4 swords in a set. Who cares if it's the one or not? I'll pull out first. Whoever pulls it out naturally owns it, Zhou thought as he grabbed the hilt with both hands and pulled. The woman stared at the hilt, but when she saw that it remained motionless, she immediately lost interest in Zhou. She raised her hand, about to use the incorporeal sword beam to kill him. Originally, the Immortals had the intention of making Zhou their spokesperson, but Zhou had never taken the memento to the Immortals. Rejecting them meant that the Immortals were their enemies. The fewer enemies like Zhou on Earth, the better. "Wait, I didn't use my luck just now. Why use my luck? I'll definitely be able to pull it out," Zhou hurriedly said. It wasn't that he was afraid of fighting a woman. After all, he would have to fight sooner or later, so it was useless to be afraid. However, if he could pull out the sword first, it would naturally be better than being empty-handed. When the woman heard him say that, she didn't immediately kill him. She only said coldly, "I don't have that much time to waste on you. I'll give you 30 seconds. Zhou didn't know how long 30 seconds was. Since the woman was willing to let him try, he would continue. He first circulated the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra and tried to pull out the sword again, but the sword remained motionless. Zhou had no choice but to switch to the first order of chaos before attempting to pull out the sword. However, the sword seemed to have taken root. No matter how hard Zhou tried, he couldn't move it at all. The woman stood by the side expressionlessly, but when she saw that Zhou had used two completely different essence energy arts, and they had both reached the calamity grade, she thought to herself, although this person is cunning, his talent is top-notch among humans. Without the help of dimensional powers or fusing with a mutated bloodline, he can actually cultivate two essence energy arts at the same time. Furthermore, they have reached the calamity grade. It's indeed rare. It's no wonder the immortal supremacy of the clan named him as a spokesperson. Just as she was thinking about it, she saw Zhou use a completely different essence energy art. Furthermore, it had also reached the calamity grade. Her gaze couldn't help but narrow. He's actually cultivating three essence energy arts at the same time, and they have also reached the calamity grade. If such talent can't be used by our immortals, we definitely can't let him leave alive today. The woman didn't have any killing intent, but she did want Zhou to become the spokesperson of the immortals. Zhou used the sky-stealing, sun-shifting art again, hoping to see if he could secretly swap out the sword. However, there was still no reaction. This left Zhou somewhat disappointed. He originally wanted to draw the sword and fight the woman again. Even if he couldn't beat her, he could escape with the sword. After all, he couldn't let the sword fall into the hands of the immortals. However, after trying so many essence energy arts, it was useless. It was probably very difficult to pull it out. I'll give it a try again. Zhou planned on giving it a try with the Tao Sutra. If it still didn't work, he could only give up. Although he could still use the human emperor's scripture, it was too obvious. If he used it in front of a woman, she would probably be able to tell that he was the human emperor. If that happened, she might just kill him. Even if he had a fight, Zhou hoped to have the initiative in his hands. Chapter 1728. Four Essence Energy Arts. The woman couldn't help but be alarmed. To be able to cultivate four essence energy arts to such a level was rare, even in the dimension. It was unimaginable that a human could cultivate to such a level. A pure-blooded human is actually able to cultivate four primordial energy arts to the calamity grade. If he can really take that step in the future, he'll definitely be an extremely terrifying existence. Even in a dimension, he'll probably be a lord. However, the woman thought again. I was overthinking things. How can that step be taken so easily? Ignoring four primordial energy arts, even one primordial energy art, is probably difficult to cultivate to the extreme, much less four. Although the woman felt that it was impossible for Zhou to take that step to the apocalypse stage, the way she looked at him was somewhat different. Even if such a person can't take that step, he can be considered invincible on Earth. If he can be used by us immortals, who can compete with us for Earth's companion beasts. The woman thought to herself, however, this person can't be left alive no matter what. Even if he can be used by me, I have to eliminate him in the future. It's better to be safe than sorry. If he really takes that step, I'm afraid it'll be difficult to control him. Just as the woman was thinking, she suddenly felt the ground beneath her feet shake. The entire mountain began to shake. He pulled out. The woman was pleasantly surprised as she saw Zhou slowly pulling out the sword from the stone monument. The sword's blade had already been pulled out, revealing a layer of rust on the sword's body. Not a single ray of light could be seen, but it had a kind of killing intent that made people tremble in fear. No, it shouldn't be called killing intent. To be precise, it was the smell of blood. Just the smell made one's hair stand on end. It was as though one's blood was stirring restlessly, as though it wanted to flow to the sword. It's indeed that sword. Only then did the woman dare to affirm that it was the immortal sword. The sword looked rusty, but the woman knew that it wasn't rust but blood. The blood of an immortal, the blood of a zenith heaven golden immortal. Back then, the immortal had used this sword to kill countless sky immortals. Even his zenith heaven golden immortal was stained with blood as he was mercilessly slain by the sword. Perhaps only this sword had such a heavy, baneful aura in the world. It was a baneful aura nurtured by the blood of countless immortals. There was only one such sword in the world. After Zhou Wen circulated the Tao Sutra, he pulled out the sword. The sword seemed to respond to him, no longer as motionless as before. As his palm slowly left the stone monument, the aura on the sword made Zhou Wen truly feel that it was indeed a sword from the Immortal Culling Sword set. Let me announce that the app I've been using recently supports both Android and iPhone. Although he did not know if it was the Immortal Extinguishing Sword, it had an indescribable resemblance to the Immortal Slaughtering Sword. The sword shape was completely different, and the aura on the sword was completely different. However, something was the same deep down. How could Zhou Wen, who had been using Immortal Culling all this time, not sense it? As the sword was pulled out, the entire mountain shook more and more violently. Cracks appeared on the stone tablet one after another. When the sword was completely removed from the stone tablet shattered with a loud bang. Originally, there was only a small patch of grass on the top of the mountain, but now it was growing wildly. In just a moment, the entire mountain was covered in grass, and the grass was growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. "Give me the sword." Upon seeing Zhou Wen pull out the immortal sword, the woman forgot to address herself as her true body. With a flash, she appeared in front of Zhou Wen and reached out to grab the immortal sword in his hand. With the immortal sword in hand, Zhou Wen felt the baneful aura on the sword surge like the sea, like a volcano that was about to erupt. It seemed to contain infinite power. It was a power filled with baneful aura that made Zhou Wen unable to help but feel killing intent. Looking at the woman who was grabbing the immortal sword, Zhou Wen held the sword hilt with both hands and slashed at her. As Zhou Wen brandished the dim sword, it seemed to transform into a sanguine beam that instantly slashed at the woman. "You're courting death," the woman shouted coldly, and her hand erupted with void essence sword chi. The omnipresent sword chi instantly enveloped Zhou Wen and the immortal sword. Zhou Wen ignored the approaching sword beam as he continued slashing at the woman with the immortal sword. At the same time, his body was enveloped by the great Brahma armor. Crack! The immortal sword actually sliced through the void sword chi that could suppress the yin-yang seven-color divine light. It left a slanted, bloody mark on the woman's face that stretched from the left side of her forehead to the right side of her chin. What a powerful sword! Zhou Wen was pleasantly surprised. The sword's strength was stronger than he had imagined. It was clearly a set of swords, but this immortal sword was much stronger than Immortal Culling. It made Zhou Wen suspect if his Immortal Culling sword was really one of the 4 Immortal Vanquishing swords, or if it was just an imitation. In fact, Zhou Wen was overthinking things. The Immortal Culling sword was naturally not an imitation. The Immortal Extinguishing sword wasn't stronger than the Immortal Culling sword either. The reason he felt that the Immortal Extinguishing sword was strong was because the former owner of the Immortal Extinguishing sword had killed countless immortals. Even Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals had been slain by the sword. The sword had absorbed the blood of countless immortals, and the sanguine aura it formed was too heavy. The restraining effect on immortals was even more direct than the Immortal Culling sword. As expected of the sword that killed all immortals, it stained with the blood of countless immortals. This sword naturally has an extremely strong restraining effect on immortals. Even a mortal can slice through an immortal body with this sword. Even I'm no exception. The woman stood in the distance and stared at the immortal sword in Zhou Wen's hand, but she didn't attack again. "I wonder how many years it's been since I've been injured." The woman reached out to touch the sword scar on her face. She didn't seem angry. Instead, she seemed to be reminiscing about something. "From the looks of it, this sword isn't compatible with you. It's best I carry it to prevent you from suffering a bloody calamity." Zhou Wen stared intently at the woman. He wasn't smug because he had injured the woman with one strike. In that situation, the woman had been completely unprepared. She had only reacted at the last moment after the sword beam had been destroyed. Even so, she had been able to dodge the strike that Zhou Wen believed was a sure kill. However, Such speed wasn't something Zhou could match. Do you really think you can injure me with a sword? The woman looked at Zhou and said indifferently, You still have a chance now. Hand the sword to me and swear to be the spokesperson of my immortals. I can let bygones be bygones. I'll have to try to know if I can injure you. How could Zhou hand over the immortal sword that he had obtained so easily, ignoring the fact that Zhou didn't have such plans in the first place? Even if he had such plans in the past, he would probably be tempted now that he saw the might of the immortal sword. I hope you won't regret it. The woman slowly raised her hand as the incorporeal sword aura on her body condensed again. However, the sword aura became fainter and fainter. In the end, he couldn't sense its existence. Zhou heart palpitated as he instinctively summoned the Chaos Egg to protect himself. Chapter 1729. Just as the Chaos Egg wrapped around Zhou's body, it suddenly caved in without any warning. It was as though something was squeezing the Chaos Egg from all directions, causing it to constantly distort like a balloon that could explode at any moment. Looking at the essence energy crystals that appeared crazily in the Chaos Egg, Zhou exclaimed inwardly. He couldn't sense the existence of the sword aura at all. If not for his intuition and the Chaos Egg's existence that he had honed after years of life and death, he would probably have been severely injured by the terrifying sword aura. The woman was somewhat surprised when she saw that her incorporeal sword aura couldn't pierce through the Chaos Egg. Let's see how long you can last. The incorporeal sword aura surged out from the woman's body in a bid to forcefully destroy the Chaos Egg. However, no matter how ferocious her sword aura was, it failed to break through the Chaos Egg's defense. Indeed, Earth hasn't completely broken out of the seal. Her strength has been suppressed to a certain extent. She's still within the calamity grade. Zhou immediately felt relieved when he saw the Chaos Egg block the incorporeal sword aura. Sir, take your time playing. I won't be accompanying you, Zhou said as he prepared to descend a mountain. To be able to block the incorporeal sword aura, your power should belong to chaos. To be able to cultivate a chaos elemental essence energy art to such a stage, and it's a pure defense-type essence energy art. I'm afraid only someone like you who can cultivate multiple essence energy arts at the same time can do it, the woman said as her tone became even more unyielding. As the woman spoke, her tone became even more forceful. She continued, It's a pity that you're just a catastrophe. The level you've come into contact with is too low. As she spoke, the invisible incorporeal sword aura suddenly changed. It no longer attacked the Chaos Egg directly. Instead, it quickly circled around it. Although the Chaos Egg's defense was astonishing, it didn't have any destructive power. How could it rush out when it was enveloped by the sword aura? Not only was it unable to rush out, but it was even forced to spin by the sword aura. The Chaos Egg rotation didn't affect Zhou, who was inside, but being trapped here without being able to leave was clearly not good news for him. The level of calamity is still low. Does that mean you are at the apocalypse stage? However, it looks like the apocalypse stage is only SOSO. So what if you can make me stay here? Zhou probed. The woman said disdainfully, Chaos is the origin of heaven and earth. It is seamless and without cracks, without beginning and without cracks. It is an entity that cannot be cut, and all the techniques in the world cannot break it. If you're facing a mere mortal, it's true that no one would be able to break it. Unfortunately, you're facing me. So what if it's primal chaos first? Let alone your puny primal chaos body. Even when the world was in chaos, it would still be broken apart by a supreme power. Today, I'll slash apart the primal chaos with my sword and carry out the matter of splitting the world apart. As soon as he said that, the incorporeal sword chi that carried the Chaos Egg split into two. One wave of sword chi carried the Chaos Egg in a forward direction, while the other wave of sword chi carried the Chaos Egg in a reverse direction. The two waves of sword chi pulled the Chaos Egg in two different directions. Zhou Wen's expression changed slightly as he immediately understood what the woman was up to. Chaos One essence was an inseparable entity to begin with, so the Chaos Egg was indestructible. Even if one's strength was stronger than Zhou Wen's, it was difficult to forcefully crack it. However, there was no true Chaos One essence in this world. Just like microscopic particles, every time people believed that a particle was the smallest particle that couldn't be cut, with the development of technology, they would realize that it wasn't really the smallest, nor was it truly inseparable. What the woman did was to forcefully add yin and yang to the Chaos Egg. When the Chaos Egg had yin and yang, it was no longer an unbreakable entity. Originally, such a thing was almost impossible, but the woman's incorporeal sword Qi also had attributes similar to chaos, making the impossible possible. Of course, the main reason was that the woman's original level was too high. She was at a level far above Zhou Wen's, and her understanding of chaos was far deeper than Zhou Wen's. If Zhou Wen's understanding of chaos could reach the same level as the woman, whether the Chaos Egg would be changed by the incorporeal sword Qi would depend on whose strength was stronger. Although Zhou Wen had already realized the problem, it was already a little too late. As the incorporeal sword Qi constantly spun in both directions, cracks appeared on the distorted Chaos Egg. The cracks appeared to be strangely symmetrical. They looked extremely beautiful, but to Zhou Wen, it was a fatal blow. This was the first time the Chaos Egg had been torn apart head-on. In the past, even if the Chaos Egg exploded, it would have exploded due to overexertion. It had never been torn apart from the outside. Zhou Wen couldn't help but sigh. Knowledge was power. Although their strength was at the calamity grade, Zhou Wen's main body hadn't reached the calamity grade. He was slightly weaker in all aspects, but the difference in knowledge wasn't fatal. Seeing more and more cracks appear on the Chaos Egg, Zhou Wen was extremely calm. Battles were always ever-changing. Anything could happen. Although an expert who could control the battle was terrifying, if they didn't have the ability to deal with all kinds of unexpected situations, they ultimately weren't top-notch existences. Although Zhou Wen was far inferior to the woman in terms of knowledge, the art of combat remained the same. The most basic things couldn't be violated. Since my knowledge is inferior to yours, I'll turn your knowledge into mine. Zhou Wen kept his sure domain activated as he analyzed the woman's incorporeal sword Qi. If it were any other immortal ability, Sure Yu, who was only at the Hell stage, might not be able to analyze it. However, the incorporeal sword Qi was the same as the Chaos Egg. They were both chaos powers. Furthermore, the woman had just said some crucial information, allowing Zhou Wen to understand the crux of the matter. Sure Yu's speed at analyzing the incorporeal sword Qi far exceeded his usual speed. Even if he analyzed the abilities of ordinary calamity-grade creatures, he wouldn't be as fast as he was now. If the woman knew that what she had just said would have such a huge impact on Zhou Wen, she probably wouldn't have said so much nonsense. The power of the incorporeal sword Qi was born from the void. Just like chaos, it was a power that existed before the world was formed. Although it was called a sword Qi, it could actually take any form. It could be a wall, a shield, or even a palace. As long as the woman needed it, it could change into any shape according to her wishes. Nothingness doesn't mean that there's really nothing. Nothingness itself is a form of existence. As Sure Yu analyzed more and more rules, Zhou Wen's understanding of the incorporeal sword Qi deepened. Just a little more. Chaos Egg, hold on. Sure Yu had yet to completely analyze the incorporeal sword Qi. The nomological chains were incomplete, preventing him from turning them into essence energy arts. However, the Chaos Egg couldn't hold on any longer. Under the incorporeal sword Qi, it was forcefully torn to pieces. Zhou Wen's body was instantly exposed. End of this chapter. Chapter 1730. The moment the Chaos Egg cracked, the killing intent in the woman's eyes intensified. Since Zhou Wen couldn't be used by her, Such a human couldn't be allowed to exist in this world. The incorporeal sword aura pressed down on Zhou from all directions, hoping to grind his body to dust. Zhou eyes were clear as the dark golden wheel of light behind the great Brahma armor shimmered with a dark glow, as though all the light in the world was being sucked in by the wheel of light. Break! The destructive power of great Brahma bloomed with Zhou's fist as it blasted at the woman. Boom! The power of great Brahma struck the incorporeal sword aura and shattered it. Zhou took the opportunity to charge at the woman. A look of surprise flashed in the woman's eyes. Although the incorporeal sword aura wasn't as indestructible as the chaos egg, there weren't many powers that could blast it apart. Under the circumstances of equal strength, there are definitely no more than 10 powers in the dimension that could withstand the incorporeal sword aura. For Zhou's strength to blast apart the incorporeal sword aura meant that the essence energy art he cultivated could enter the top 10 essence energy arts. At the very least, it was comparable. However, this wasn't enough to surprise the woman. What really surprised her was that Zhou had chosen to break through head-on. From the point of view of an ordinary person, the front was where the strength was the strongest. If Zhou only wanted to break through the incorporeal sword aura, he should have attacked the other weak spots. However, the incorporeal sword aura wasn't like that. In fact, the incorporeal sword aura that the woman had placed on the front was the weakest. Zhou had chosen to attack from the front. It was unknown if he had really seen through it or if he was lucky to have attacked the weakest spot. Is it just a coincidence? The killing intent in the woman's heart intensified. The two essence energy arts that Zhou had displayed had characteristics that were extremely rare in the dimension. One was a pure defense of the chaos, while the other had destructive powers. It was somewhat similar to the paramount powers of the Buddha clan, but there were obvious differences. It seemed to be a mutated essence energy art. Furthermore, Zhou had cultivated 4 essence energy arts. Even if the other 2 essence energy arts were inferior to these 2, they were already terrifying enough. The woman moved her hand slightly as the invisible incorporeal sword aura once again crushed at Zhou from all directions. Boom! Zhou had once again shattered the incorporeal sword beam. This time, Zhou chose to attack the incorporeal sword beam from the left. It happened to be the weakest spot of the incorporeal sword beam. It's not a coincidence. A strange glint flashed in the woman's eyes. She condensed the formless sword pressure again to attack Zhou. The outcome was the same. Every time, Zhou would choose the weakest spot to break through, making it difficult for her to crush him. You can actually see the incorporeal sword aura, the woman said as she stared at Zhou. The sword aura on her body continued crushing down on him. If you can see through my chaos force, why can't I see through your incorporeal sword beam? Zhou broke through the sword beam again and again as he asked. In fact, Zhou was in a terrible state. Brahma's destructive power was ultimately slightly weaker than the incorporeal sword beam. Every time he tore through the sword beam, Zhou would suffer the impact of the recoil. If his body was also at the heavenly realm, such a recoil wouldn't have been able to injure him. However, he only had a Terra-grade body. Such a recoil had quite a significant impact on his body. If it wasn't for the fact that the Brahma armor had absorbed and reflected most of the force, his body would have long collapsed. Now, Zhou felt as though his organs were about to rupture as blood seeped out of his 7 orifices. Thankfully, with the armor covering his body, the woman couldn't see Zhou's situation. Is that so? Then let me see if you really understand. The incorporeal sword beam on the woman's body suddenly converged, transforming into an invisible sword in her hand. The woman realized that the scattered incorporeal sword beam wasn't enough to kill Zhou, but the condensed incorporeal sword beam was enough to easily destroy the destructive power of Brahma. The woman slashed out at an unbelievably fast speed. Zhou moved rapidly as he condensed the power of Brahma to strike the incorporeal sword beam. Crack! The power of Brahma, which was like a black hole that could absorb and destroy everything, was sliced apart by the incorporeal sword beam in the woman's hand as though it was tofu. However, Joan also used that instant to dodge the incorporeal sword beam slash. The woman slashed out 3 times, and Joan dodged her attacks 3 times. Although he was in a sorry state, with him barely dodging each attack, it was enough to shock the woman. "You really do understand?" the woman said coldly. The woman said coldly, "But so what if you can understand it? I'll let you know the difference between us." Only then did the woman move. Like a fairy in the wind, she stabbed at Joan. The strike was fast enough. Joan took the opportunity to suddenly pull out his immortal sword and slash at the woman's body. The immortal sword slashed at the invisible sword beam like a sanguine beam, but it brushed past it. The woman's figure was like a veil in the water as she gracefully swept past Joan. The invisible sword beam streaked across Brahma's armor, forcefully slicing through the nearly indestructible dark gold armor. Joan had no choice but to use teleportation on the mountaintop. Only then did he barely manage to dodge the strike before it sliced through his body. On the Brahma armor, there was a crack that spanned across the entire chest. Blood was seeping out of the wound. You can actually use spatial teleportation on this mountain. The woman looked at Joan in astonishment. "Why can't I use it?" Joan didn't feel any discomfort. It was probably because of the sure domain's effects that prevented him from being injured by the restrictions on the mountain. "All right," the woman said out of the blue as she slashed at Joan again. Her form was light and ethereal like an immortal. Every strike was like a dance. It didn't look like it had any strength, but Joan knew that any strike was enough to destroy the world. Only in a place like Kunlun Mountain did the restrictions suppress the energy fluctuations. It was as though the fluctuations of the incorporeal sword beam were enough to collapse the mountain. Strike after strike, Joan used the immortal sword in one hand and the power of heaven incinerating in the other to resist the woman's incorporeal sword beam. However, from beginning to end, be it the immortal sword or the power of heaven incinerating, they failed to touch the woman's incorporeal sword beam. The woman seemed to be able to predict the future. Even if Joan used teleportation, she could appear at the spot where he teleported. When Joan teleported out, the incorporeal sword beam was almost stuck to his neck. Joan forcefully reversed the immortal sword in his hand and used the hilt to block the incorporeal sword beam. Only then did he escape the fate of being beheaded. He didn't dare continue teleporting as a bloody mark was left on his neck. The Brahma armor couldn't withstand the terrifying incorporeal sword beam at all. In just a moment, the Brahma armor on Joan's body was covered in bloody marks as shocking blood seeped out. End of this chapter. That you're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.